Hello and welcome everyone to Grid Vision. We definitely are happy to be here this lovely Sunday afternoon for some Global Racing Truck Series action at Mid-Ohio. Going road course racing here today at this 2.25-mile racetrack. Of course, I am Brian Britt. I'm joining the booth for the first time. I've never been with him before, but Austin Edstrom, of course, Austin Derbyshire down behind the cameras as always. How you doing tonight, Austin? What can we expect here at Mid-Ohio? I know you've been turning some laps out there.
Yeah, Brian, I have been, and I think we're going to see a lot of single car spins. The back end of these cars are really flighty. I've been watching a couple people in qualifying here, and everybody's loose, out of control, on the edge of grip. This is an open setup league, so you could see some differing setups that really prefer rear grip, especially if that's what somebody's struggling with. That's personally what I was struggling with, so I would not be surprised if we see a lot of solo or two-car incidents here today.
Yeah, definitely. I think this track is kind of always like that. I mean, you kind of do have some issues around the track, certain areas where the car can get a little flighty, and I think that's one of the kind of terms you used before the broadcast began. I do want to talk about a little bit about the point situation coming into today's race here with the Global Racing Truck Series. Dale Brooks, of course, has been the winningest driver all season, has now at 5 wins, I do believe, after a win last week. Of course, Chad McGinley sits in that second place spot. He's up 2 spots. Third place, Ricky Hudgens down 1 spot. Of course, fourth place, Stephen Hayes. He's staying the same. Michael Hayes up 1 spot. He definitely had a really great race last week. Almost won it, I do believe. Sixth place, Jeff Weimer up a spot. Seventh place, Steve Gerber down 2 spots. He was in 5th. So that is a big hit there for him. 8th place, Mark Royce. 9th place, EJ Luna. Really good day for him in last race. Up 2 spots, he's in 9th. 10th place, David Holsey, down a spot. That is the top 10 in points as it stands at the moment. How different is it going to look here after this race? That is going to be the major question. I do believe we're going to see some big movers and big shakers. One in particular I think we're going to see really make huge moves is possibly going to be Austin, I do believe, McGill. He's always a road course style ringer. Really good at these racetracks. Last time we saw him at a road course, Circuit of the America, he absolutely dominated that race. But looking at qualifying right now, Chad McGinley showing some pretty good speed, so we'll have to see how that kind of works out, of course. I do believe we have a relatively new little bit of a segment that we can show the schedule for next week, though. Let's go ahead and roll that. Of course, this is going to be our next week's schedule. Of course, Monday we do have available for competition if any leagues looking to have their races called professionally. Of course, Champion Power Equipment going to be coming back. I know they were off last week. They're going to be at Charlotte Motor Speedway about 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, Thunderclap also going to be back in action. I do believe if I'm not mistaken, I do believe Milwaukee Mile. I'm sorry, got a little confused there. Definitely going to be excited to see them. Of course, Thursday we are open for any leagues. Of course, we just started. And I know, Austin, you actually did the broadcast on Friday. I was not able to be there because I was having some internet issues. But the NIS race, and I heard that was actually well received. Of course, we're going to be doing that again on Friday, New Hampshire. Of course, Saturdays are open for any leagues that would like to have their races called. Of course, Sunday, New Hampshire, going to be with the Global Racing Truck Series, of course. So definitely loving that graphic there. I love that. Love just how it kind of sets the whole week out for us. We know what to expect. Easy for us to keep track of, that's for sure.
Yeah, Brian, that NIS race a couple days ago was a slow burn through the middle part of the race, but we really got rewarded for sitting through it with a fantastic finish. 2 green white checkers with a come from behind winner that nobody saw coming after he ran out of gas earlier in the race during green flag pit stop. So hopefully we can see just as much mayhem today, even though we're on a road course with about half as many cars. But the top of the field in qualifying, I mean, the top 3 are separated by 5/100ths of a second, so I think we're going to see a good battle up at the front.
Yeah, it does seem like it. I mean, Bobby Mantle, he's kind of showing some surprising speed here today. Of course, I do want to discuss a little bit about the race. 67 laps that we have on the docket here tonight. Of course, it looks like the temperature of the track is about 94 degrees. Fuel window, from what I've heard, it's about 30 laps, give or take. But of course, so that is going to be, I think, the big deal here. 67 laps, that means you can't make it on one stop. And road course racing, you're not really able to save a lot of gas. I don't think that's really going to be a big kind of strategy. So I think for the most part, we're going to see probably 2 pit stops during this race, as it looks like qualifying is wrapping up.
My apologies, Brian. I'm showing two more laps on that. I'm seeing 32 on the fuel chart, but that's still not enough. Even if you do save, I mean, you've got to save 2 laps a stint, and saving gas at a road course. I mean, if you got to save 2 laps, you've got to be punching the clutch every corner, right foot braking, and it's just going to be a tough task.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think it might be something someone might try. That makes it a little bit more possible, that extra 2 laps. So I definitely appreciate that information. Of course, we do have the grid set, the starting grid, I should say, for today's race here. And of course, Chad McGinley earns the pole here at Mid-Ohio. Austin McGill is going to be starting in 2nd place. Bobby Mantle earns 3rd. 4th place, Daniel Ott. 5th place, Justin LeBlanc. 6th, Stephen Hayes. 7th, Mark Royce. 8th, David Holsey. 9th, Eric Bergdorf. And rounding out the top 10 is Stephen Knight.
Starting 11th is going to be Steve Gerber. In 12th, Dale Brooks. Starting off row number 7 is the number 23 of Don Blazier. 14th is Michael Hayes. 15th, EJ Luna. 16th, Ricky Hudgens. 17th, Ron Harrington. 18th, Jeff Wimmer. And 19th, Jeremy Richmond.
I just noticed as well, I was kind of looking at the race info, these guys have unlimited sets of tires, but of course we are not going to have any cautions here to really allow you to use them.
Yeah, I don't think any of those are going to come into, none of those are really going to come in handy, and this short pace lap has already got us going. We're green.
Yeah, green flag is already out. That was very quick, and Chad McGinley up through the gears, and already Austin McGill already really challenging for the lead. He takes it into turn number 1. And he's going to sail off into the sunset, and a really good start as well from Stephen Hayes, who got around Bobby Mantle for that 3rd place position.
Yeah, all of a sudden through turn 1, the pack is single filed out. Everybody being pretty nice to each other. Austin was just way braver on the brakes there than Chad. He had a pretty good start getting the outside lane off that last corner. They really got the green flag in the middle of the last 2 corners. So I think Austin may have gotten a little lucky there, but I mean, he was just braver on the brakes getting into turn 1. Didn't have the preferred line, but he just got on the brakes harder and took the lead.
Yeah, I think a lot of that probably comes with confidence. I talked about this guy, how dominant he was at the Circuit of the Americas, and that's a tough track. COTA. That's not an easy track, and to be able to be dominant there, I think you come to a place like Mid-Ohio, you expect to be good. So I think that's just confidence, him driving it like that. For the most part, everybody's being relatively tame. Surprised we haven't seen really anybody go flying off the racetrack quite yet. I am starting to see some battles. Oh, there goes someone. Speaking of the devil, and they'll appear. The 73 of Jeff Weimer just went off the racetrack there. Of course, he has not lost any position. I think Ron Harrington is also in the struggle bus at the moment as well. As we're looking back, I do believe at Ron Harrington to see if he might have actually had an issue that we did not see.
This is going to be a big trouble spot all day down in the turn 5 heavy braking zone, and with the rear end being flighty, you could see that he just probably got a little too hard on the brakes there, and the back end just steps out on him, and he couldn't save it.
Let's take a look and see what happened here with Jeff Weimer in the 73. As we're watching him, of course, he was being followed by Justin LeBlanc. And I'm surprised that LeBlanc actually started a little bit further up in the field. As we go back live, ooh, I love that. That's new. Loving these new things we're seeing here, new graphics and things like that to keep it fresh here at Grid Vision. We're always trying to push the envelope with new and exciting and innovation. That's what I love about it. As we see, of course, the racing is starting to heat up a little bit more. As I do believe Bobby Mantle starting to get pressured a little bit by Mark Royce. As Royce is doing really good on the entrance of the corners. And also you see Stephen Hayes. He's starting to put some pressure on Chad McGinley as well for that 2nd place position.
Yeah, the lead driver there, Austin McGill, is just absolutely checked out from the field after the first lap. He made that great move in turn 1, and he's really just set sail. He was the fastest car in practice, so it's not too surprising, but he was not the fastest in qualifying. He made a big mistake, I believe, coming over the crest in turn 8, I believe is the turn number. But he came over the crest, just got really loose, and had to abort his last lap. Took a lot of time off, so not too surprised to see him
a nice
take the lead
suspension. Really good look at the suspension here when we go over these bumps. But yeah, I definitely. I mean, Austin, like I said, he's just got that confidence, and I think that really is paying off for him. It really pays to have confidence around a place like this and know it like the back of your hand. And I think that he puts in enough time. I mean, looking at his last lap, he was almost a second faster. He was like 9/10 faster than the rest of the field, and that's saying something. I mean, you don't do that on accident, especially at a road course. That just shows pure skill. And tell us how a little bit about how difficult it is to wheel a car like this around a track like this. Because I mean, these trucks, they're not road course like built cars. They're not meant for this.
Yeah, absolutely not. And this track is very difficult. There's a lot of corners, as we see a replay there of Ron Harrington spinning out over the crest. There's a lot of corners where you have to really give up the corner exit to be able to make the next corner as good as possible. A lot of back and forth chicane style of corners. And these trucks are just so light in the back end whenever there's any change of elevation. As you see Austin coming over the crest there, that's going to be a danger spot all day. Every little bit of elevation change puts these trucks in a world of hurt, and Austin has not put a wheel wrong yet.
Yeah, and it seems like there is a lot of elevation changes in this track. I mean, you can't, from a lot of our views that we see, it's kind of hard to see how substantial these elevation changes are, but I'm sure if we took like a gyro camera, we would definitely be able to get a substantial view here. As I think we see Ricky Hudgens making a mistake. And I actually talked to Ricky Hudgens and Jeff Weimer before the race to kind of, I was talking to Dale Brooks and those guys for the Dirty South camp to see what the fuel window was going to look like here tonight. And they were like, hey, don't look at us. They said, don't look at Ricky Hudgens and Jeff Weimer. I was like, well, if y'all start spinning out, we're going to have to look at you.
There's absolutely nothing we can do about that. That's easy TV right there. You can't give us a reason to look at you like that, but yeah.
Wow, look at that. Yeah, look at Austin McGill's last lap. 26.812. That was 2 seconds, almost 2 seconds faster than the rest of the field. This guy is pulling away. He's gone.
Yeah, that was faster than the qualifying lap, or from everybody. That was faster than every single qualifying lap. Still half a second off his PB from practice, so he's still got a little bit more in the tank. But I think everybody else does too. You know, Chad McGinley was running 26.9s in qualifying. He ran a 26.5 in practice.
Oh, there goes Stephen Hayes around. And that was for the third place position. I think he might have had a little bit of help. The racing was kind of starting to get almost possibly even 3 wide right there. I can't wait to take a look back at that replay and see exactly what happened. I think he might have had a little bit of help there from Bobby Mantle possibly here. Oh, he got a little bit of the curb there, unsettled the race car. Yeah, and I don't think that was really necessarily Mantle's fault. I think that Hayes was just kind of being a little bit aggressive. What's your take on it, Austin?
Yeah, Mantle had the position there on the inside coming around that corner. Hayes really just didn't leave enough room. I think there was a little bit of net code in there too, so you could possibly say, you know, I mean, it's just hard racing. They got unlucky, but kind of looked like Hayes was going to come across his nose anyway. And Mantle didn't get in too hard or anything. He made the apex, so I really wouldn't put any blame on him for that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think also Hayes caught a little bit of the curb, which kind of unsettled the truck a little bit and caused him to not be able to necessarily control it as much. So that's why he kind of came in the lane, into Mantle's lane a little bit more. And that hurt him so much. The risk versus reward there absolutely killed Stephen Hayes' chances here because he's back to now 15th. Eric Bergdorf, I think we need to look at him. He's dropping through the field rapidly here.
Yeah, it was a good call on Hayes on the corner before. He definitely took a little bit of the grass on the inside and popped out. And it really shadowed up his entry for the next corner, and he really had nothing to do but turn in or give up the spot. And unfortunately, he turned in and wrecked himself. But
looking here, Eric Bergdorf, I think he might have just had an issue. He lost several positions at once, and yeah, he caught some of that grass there. Just there's no grip there. There's no grip there, and he lost, I do believe, a spot to David Holsey. I do believe Stephen Knight, and I think that's Dale Brooks and Don Blazer. All three got by him, and he's back now to 9th place. Not as bad as Stephen Hayes' loss, because Hayes went from 3rd all the way to 15th.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this long race. You know, obviously you want to fight for every position, right? Every position matters on every lap. But whenever it's lap 4 or 5, it's really just about keeping your nose clean and not making mistakes. As our leader is going right now with this huge lead.
Now, we do have a battle going on. I mean, Mantle just took over 2nd place from Chad McGinley. McGinley has fallen back to now 4th. I'd love to take a replay on that because that was actually a really interesting and intense battle, as it still actually rages as Mark Royce is going to be trying to work his way up to 2nd.
Yeah, we get the replay going here in just a second.
28
wide and through the last set of corners really lets the 89 get a big run down the front. McGill here, or Mantle. My apologies.
Look at Mantle. I mean, he was sideways, plumb drifting it out of the corner there, and still able to keep the momentum. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, these trucks, even though they get flighty, they're a little faster whenever you have them stepped out a little bit, right? You're trying to find that perfect slip angle. Even these NASCAR trucks have that slip angle effect. It's just really hard to find it. It's really hard to get on the brakes correctly to not let the back end step out. You got to have your brake bias set up correctly just from laps and laps of practice. Obviously, our leader, Austin McGill, must have his tuned up pretty perfect for him to stretch out a lead of 8 seconds here in 6 laps. I mean, he's absolutely flying.
I mean, he's steadily 2 seconds faster than everybody. It's just crazy. I mean, we got a battle. I do believe Stephen Knight just got by David Holsey. Holsey going really wide, really loose. Now under fire from Dale Brooks. Holsey not handling very well. Now, I talked to Dale Brooks a little bit before the race, and he said that tires do matter here. I don't know what your experience is, Austin. I know you're a pretty I'd say successful racer in your own right. Oh, the leader spun. Austin McGill. He has such a gap, though. I don't think he's going to lose the lead. He's going to be close, though.
Yeah, but as you were saying, tires do matter, and he finally put a foot wrong. He got into turn 1 just too hard here. Completely misses the apex and goes off into the gravel. I don't think that's going to wear his tires out too bad. There wasn't much scraping on the actual pavement. He did a good job of keeping it straight, knowing he had a big lead. Got the truck back on. Yeah, he did a little slide there, but it's not going to completely kill his stuff. He's going to have a little gravel on him, be a little slower for a little while, but I think he did a good job saving his tires, but his lead has completely evaporated.
Yeah, went from Michael Hayes seems like he's had some issues as well. Now back into 15th, getting passed by brother Stephen Hayes. And now EJ Luna gets by him as well.
And it's so easy to do that on the exit of turn 2 there. I mean, you're trying so hard to get the throttle down as early as possible. That's a long straightaway coming off at turn 2 with a heavy braking zone into, I believe, 4. I think they count the kink there as turn 3. But coming off at turn 2, the back end just wants to step around as soon as you get 30%, 40% throttle, especially if you really stab on the gas. So not too big of a surprise to see people running wide there on turn 2 and almost spinning it across the racing surface.
Yeah, I'll tell you one that's really on the struggle bus right now is David Holsey. He's fallen. He's been losing position after position. He just lost another spot there to Daniel Ott. Ott has just moved up into the 8th place position. Last time by, David Holsey hit a minute 31.850, which I do believe was one of the slowest laps on the racetrack. So definitely struggling here. And it could very well be the tires. I mean, you wouldn't. I know what's really interesting to me, I didn't think tire wear would matter that much here today, but of course in the next gen it doesn't. But in this truck it seems to be a whole different animal.
Yeah, I just think with the heavy braking zones, right, your turn-in ability is just going to get worse and worse throughout the day as you're heavy on the brakes, scrubbing the tires. Any bit of lockup from hitting the brake a little bit too much is going to wear out those tires a little bit more. And then every slide that you have, whenever you try to get on the throttle over any of these crests, that back end is going to step out if you're just a couple percent points too high of where you should be getting your initial throttle point. So, I mean, it's really about taking care of the tires. Ultimately, I feel like if you have the road course pace like Austin McGill seems to have, I don't think a tire disadvantage from like one spin or anything would cost him too heavily. I think his pace won't drop off too terribly, but the grip levels definitely just go down, and it's really just about how you work through it.
Yeah, I mean, and if the fuel window is as long as we think it is, I mean, these guys got quite a while until they're going to want to come down pit road. But I mean, then again, I mean, we're probably going to want to see these. I mean, these guys are probably going to want to see it split into probably 2 stops. So that would mean when would you pit? I mean, if I know you're a lot of times put in that race situation. When do you pit?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts about the iRacing service. Most of the time you don't have a crew chief, you don't have a real spotter giving you the strategy calls. You got to figure it out yourself behind the wheel, and personally, I think that's a lot of fun as we see Jeffrey Weimer on the replay there spinning out on the exit of turn 2. Like I mentioned earlier, treacherous spot, but I've been racking my brain over the strategy for this, and if tires are so important to these guys after, I don't know, 20 laps, you could start seeing 4-tire pit stops around lap 21, 22, and people deciding to split this race into thirds because we are going to have to pit twice anyway. But if the tires aren't wearing as much as we think they're going to, or if, I don't know, maybe one driver does a better job of saving than others, you could see that driver pushing this initial fuel load all the way to the limit, taking 4 tires on that pit stop, and then only coming in for a splash of gas on their second pit stop towards the end of the race. I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple people try either or strategy. and it's going to be interesting to see which one works out. Personally, right now, I'd probably go with the running as long as possible with the 4 tires, but we'll see what everybody decides.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like we got Michael Hayes with some more issues there. He was trying to battle with EJ Luna to get his position back. It just seems like he just cannot catch a break here. It's one of those things about road course racing that I think holds true. As of course, look at that leader getting by Ron Harrington. Lap traffic. This is making Bobby Mansell probably grin ear to ear because he is starting to get an opportunity to possibly challenge for the lead. As Eric Bergdorf with big issues, he is going to drop all the way back to 13th as a result of hitting that guardrail. Wow, definitely a lot of guys are having a lot of issues. And that's the thing about road course racing, though. I mean, you really have to limit your mistakes. And what my point was going to be was when you make mistakes, a lot of times you continue to make them because you get frustrated. It's very hard to get out of that and kind of look towards the future. A lot of times you dwell on what you did before, and that can cause you to make more mistakes. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think we're seeing that with Austin McGill right now, in all seriousness. A lot of, through that middle sector there, it was a very technical sector. I could just see his truck was just doing 1 or 2 extra movements in the corner that Bobby Mantles wasn't doing. He wasn't having to do. I think McGill's just a little uneasy after that kind of half spin there because his back end is just moving around ever so slightly, under braking in the middle of the corner. So I really think that he's been hurt more than I thought he would from that initial spin, and Mantle is just right on his bumper again.
And I think it could be a mental thing as well. I think that a lot of times, you make those mistakes like that. A lot of times it's hard to recover from them mentally. That's what we're watching back the replay of Don Blazier, who spun it and ended up stopped in the middle of the track. Luckily, everybody was able to get by safely, but he is going to fall back, I do believe, back to 13th position. So a lot of mistakes here tonight. A lot of guys are making a lot of mistakes, and this is something to be expected. It's going to be just about how few mistakes you make. 'Cause I think everybody on this racetrack at the moment is going to make a mistake at some point, and it's just about who makes the fewest mistakes.
The leader, the leader is just not hitting his points like he was the first few laps. I mean, I'm telling you, that's the second lap in a row he's gone into the kind of weird uphill chicane with the crest and just completely missed the apex of the first corner, and his car's just twitching around while Mansell is holding a steady wheel, not putting a single foot wrong. He's hitting all the apexes. I think he's just got less overall pace as Austin, especially on the new tires, but maybe he's just made him last, and obviously he got lucky. He got thrown a bone with McGill really costing himself 7 seconds on that spin, but I mean, if McGill was really that fast towards the end of the run, he would still be pulling away from him right here. So we've kind of been gifted a battle from the lead, or for the lead, because of that mistake here.
Yeah, one thing to catch somebody, but another thing completely to pass, especially at a road course. I mean, it's going to be difficult, I think, for Mansell to actually take advantage and get by Austin McGill, because McGill is not going to give this position up willingly, that's for sure. But I think a lot of it, we saw it before, where McGill, you talk about overall pace. I mean, McGill was hitting lap times that were almost 2 seconds faster than the rest of the field. That has to have some sort of an effect on your tires. And I think that's what we're seeing here from Austin. I think that he burned his stuff up by trying to pull away and show off a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, that's the thing. Mansell has just run steady 128 since the start of the race. I think there was a couple laps where he was battling, lap 4 and 5, where he dipped into the 29s, but then as soon as he got clear, he immediately goes back into the 28s and runs a 4, a 2, a 3, and an 8 back to back. So I just think Mansell has been smooth and steady, while McGill has kind of made the the hair mistake and the tortoise in the hare. He went too fast, made a little mistake, and now he's
too close
he's got a challenge. Yeah, just a little bit, and his lap times have dropped down while Mansell is running low 28s. He's kind of fallen into the 29, high 28 area, and has kind of been flirting with that for the past couple laps.
Looks like we haven't seen one of the people go across the top of the screen as "You are the weakest link, goodbye." Eric Bergdorf has given up and decided to call it quits here for the evening, packed it up into the garage. Also, we see Ricky Hudgens having some more issues there, some contact on the wall there. So a lot of guys are not going to make it to the end of this race. Even though we're only 13 laps in, we're already seeing guys not, already falling out.
Yeah, and I was mentioning earlier, I thought we were going to see a lot of single car spins in this race. This track is just so difficult for people who predominantly run ovals. I think a lot of these guys have some experience on the road side of the service. But whenever you're predominantly an oval runner and then you get on a predominantly right-hand turn track with so much verticality change, it's just something that these guys aren't used to, and it's in a truck that is just it's impossible to get the power down in this thing without throwing those back tires out. So I'm not really too surprised to see so many people make issues over these crests where the leaders are right now, turns 4 and 5. Going over that crest, it's just a blind corner, and if you get on the throttle a little too early, it's really the only corner where you're going to push wide instead of losing the back end. So like just out of nowhere, you can make that mistake whenever you think you're loose the entire time. So it's just a really treacherous course for all these predominantly oval racers.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is one of the toughest places. Even though it doesn't look tough on paper, I think the elevation changes definitely really hurt it. I mean, you almost like a lot of the portions of this racetrack are a lot like Lime Rock Park, to where you go through that one area that has that kind of bump, and it can kind of send. When you go over an elevation change like that, it unsettles the car. A lot of times, no matter what car you're in, and these trucks already don't produce a whole lot of grip anyway. These cars already don't produce a lot of grip here. As we take a look back at the replay, I do believe we're seeing Steve Gerber possibly making a mistake here. Looks like he just took a little trip off the track here, spun it around.
Yeah, he just got that left rear tire on the curb.
Though.
Just touched the grass a little bit, went around. Honestly, nothing he could do from that point. Once you put the left rear tire on the curb, on a double apex kind of corner, you're just kind of screwed. The leader goes way wide in turn 4, and he had built a gap back up to about 1.2 seconds over Mansell, but that's going to climb right back down to about 0.6 of a second again. So even though he's kind of found his footing again, kind of found his speed, but he's just making a couple mistakes that are keeping Mansell in this race.
Yeah, I mean, and if he makes another big mistake like he did earlier, I mean, he went like we were talking about, 8 seconds to almost 0 seconds. Does that again, that could be huge. Of course, I do want to give a shout out while we have a little bit of a lull in the action here. One of our sponsors, Reaper Speed Lamb. Want to reach the top? Reaper Speed Lamb is your one-stop shop for quality setups and the oval racing scene. Established in 2020, Reaper Speed Lamb's goal is to offer a competitive setup for all of your oval racing needs, from the top 3 NASCAR series to the short track competition of late models, modifieds, and legends cars. Visit ReaperSpeedLamb.com for more information. Reaper Speed Lamb, where Top Split lives. Definitely appreciate them coming on board here with Grid Vision. Of course, we'll shout out some more of our partners here as the race progresses. But it seems like for the most part, a lot of guys are starting to spread out. And this is kind of something you see a lot at road courses. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, with a long road course race, you're really just looking and picking out battles for the lead, the podium. You really just, I don't know, you'll pick out good, hard racing between a group of 2 to 4 cars. But other than that, you are going to get the kind of single file, spread out. But again, with this course, there's going to be mistakes all day. And we've seen the leader, I mean, he's still sideways coming over every single crest. He's been missing multiple apexes the last couple laps. Even with the field getting spread out, I mean, we've got a great battle for the lead. And
oh, yeah.
Bobby Mansell,
it's
I mean,
he's
boring,
just that's for sure.
No, and he hasn't challenged him yet, but honestly, what Bobby Mansell is doing is, I think, really impressive, right? I think he's holding himself back. He's not pushing that truck. He knows we're on lap 15 coming to 16 here, right? We're not even a quarter of the way through this race. He's just absolutely biding his time, and he's watching Austin make 2 or 3 mistakes a lap, just thinking, all right, keep wearing those tires out. Keep wearing those tires out. And like I said, if they could have a split strategy where one, especially I could see Austin McGill absolutely doing the 2 tire pit stop strategy instead of the 1-4 tire stop and the 1 splash of fuel, because he's just kind of all over the place, but he's got the speed. If he pulls away, I think he can do whatever he wants, but he's just kind of been a little mistake prone at the beginning of this race.
Yeah, I think Mansell's making he's making the reasonable, logical decision right now. I think that he's like looking at McGill, and he's like, man, he's making a lot of mistakes. He's licking his chops. He's like, I could possibly win this race if he makes a mistake. I mean, but I also feel like the logical part of it is that he's not falling victim to that carrot on the stick mentality. A lot of times you see a guy in front of you make a mistake, that pushes you to drive harder and try to get up there to take advantage of it, and that could force you to make a mistake yourself. Mansell's not doing that. He's just kind of like, okay, he's making mistakes. Let me just calm down, keep doing what I'm doing and not make mistakes like he is.
Yeah, Mantle really looks like he's just on a Sunday drive, while Austin looks like he's running from the cops. I don't really.
I love that. That's funny.
I like what Austin's doing, though. You know, like I said, he's making a couple mistakes, but after that spin, I guess he's feeling a little desperate. He had an 8-second lead, and it's just gone. And even after that, you would probably expect right away to pick up where you left off, keep running those 26-second lap times, but it just hasn't happened. And yeah, he'll have a lap like that one. He gained a 10th there on Mantle, but if you really pay attention to the lead truck going into the heavy braking zone of turn 2 and turn 4, I mean, the back end just doesn't look comfortable, but Mantle, his back end hasn't moved the entire race, it seems.
I'll tell you one thing, taken away from the lead here, going back to 10th place, Stephen Hayes. What a recovery from this guy. He was back in 15. He is now 21 seconds back from the leader. That sounds like a lot, but I mean, he's actually recovered quite well. And it's now right on the back end of Justin LeBlanc, challenging now for 9th place. I mean, that's quite a recovery. He's got an opportunity to possibly work his way back up into possibly even the top 5 if he keeps his pace up.
Yeah, and he just beat Justin under braking there. He got a great run off of turn 1, put it to his inside on the following corner, and really just drove it in hard, made sure Justin wasn't going to be able to fight that around the outside. And yeah, Hayes is moving up. I don't think that he's going to have any chance at challenging the leaders unless they get together. But I mean, hell, let's check. Hayes has been consistently running low 29s while the leaders have kind of stabilized at high 28. So yeah, he's still losing time, but I mean, the leaders almost got together coming out of, I believe it's turn 8 or 9 this past lap, and it's gotten really close up front again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my point was that he's making up a lot of, he's making a bad situation a lot better. I mean, you got to think about it. I mean, this guy was back in 15th, was looking at a terrible points day. Could have easily given up, but I mean, he picked himself up back by his bootstraps, got back to work, and he's working his way back up into the top 10. I mean, there's a lot to be said about that, a lot of respect that I think he just earned.
Absolutely. He's the 3rd fastest car on the track, so the only 2 people that are beating him every lap are the 2 leaders. And like I mentioned earlier, if the 2 leaders start fighting, I mean, honestly, anybody can get back in this race. Stephen Hayes back in 9th, like we've been talking about, 3rd fastest car on track. If he comes up and challenges Mark Royce by the end of this race, and we still have 48, 49 laps to go, you never know what's going to happen with the 2 leaders. Yeah, especially with the we have someone off in front of the leaders there in the chicane, but they're nose to tail, finally bumper to bumper over the crest. Austin is crazy sideways coming over that corner.
Yeah, I think that was Jeff Weimer that just went off the track, and he has now gone a lap down. Of course, that leaves only 14 drivers now on the lead lap as the leaders aren't battling. We'll take a replay back and look at Jeff Weimer going off the racetrack. As we're now on lap 18, you see the leaders back there in the back drop. Of course, Weimer goes a little bit wide, misses the braking zone, goes through the grass, doesn't hit anything.
Leaders were side by side going into the final sector here. Mantle is putting all types of pressure on McGill.
I mean, last time by, he was about 4 tenths faster than him, so it's no wonder he's putting pressure on him. He's starting to really, he's showing that he's been conserving those tires, and Austin has not been. I mean, he's starting to show that. I think the candles burn out for Austin McGill.
Yeah, I think Mantle's turned up the pressure a little bit, to be honest. I think he's kind of like, okay, this is go time. We're entering the pit stop phase of the race where people can start pitting, and he has absolutely outbraked Austin into turn 2 here, side by side throughout the entire corner. Who's going to get on the gas first? A little bit of contact. Honestly, think Austin pinched him a little bit. Both of them.
Yeah, I think Austin wasn't trying to let him go. Austin did not want to let him go, and ended up pinching him and door banging with him, but it didn't matter. Bobby Mantle, new leader. What a fantastic run from the 89. Of course, like you said, pit stops are on the horizon.
I mean, that was just a fantastic move. He honestly didn't have as good of a run through turn 1 as I thought he needed to make that move, but he just outbraked Austin. I think he's been seeing what we've been seeing from the broadcast booth, where Austin's back end, for the last 10 laps, he's been right on his bumper within a second, and he's just been seeing that back end travel the entire time. Of course, Mantle takes the lead. He almost puts his left rear a little wide right there and threw it all away, but he's just been on a charge here the last two or three laps here. He's really just turned up the heat.
A lot of times, though, I'll tell you, I know this to be true for me. Whenever I get in the lead, like I could be faster than the leader. Whenever I get in the lead, that's when I start making mistakes. So Mantle now that he's in the lead, does not have someone to judge himself on anymore. He could see all the mistakes Austin was making and not make them, but now he's in the front. He doesn't have that anymore. He doesn't have that measuring stick, if you will.
Yeah, that's a great point, Brian. I mean, especially at technical road courses like this one. I mean, whenever you have the guy in front of you, yeah, you've got a little bit of dirty air to deal with. But I've had honestly the same experience. If I'm following a guy that I'm about equal speed with, I can catch him. But as soon as I pass him, it's so hard for me to either pull away or not make a mistake. Losing those braking markers just off the guy in front of you, you know, okay, I can gain a little bit here if I just brake 10 feet less or later than him. But whenever there's nobody in front of you, you kind of lose those braking points, and it might take a couple laps for it to come to you. But Mantl's done a good job here, kind of stretching the lead out just a little bit over the last lap, got it up to half a second, so he's got a little bit of breathing room, and he's still not shaking the back end around too much. This was the corner he had trouble with last lap. Takes the first apex a little wide, but still manages to keep it on the track. Because we got the one car in the tire barrier.
Track, and I also just noticed as well, we saw that Stephen Hayes is up to 9th. He's back to 13th. Something else went wrong for the 13.
Oh no.
Man, that's a heartbreaker.
I'm gonna go.
Oh, so pit stops. Okay, so green flag. The producer just told us that he just pitted. So I don't think anything went wrong. I guess it seems like according to plan. But this is not a pit stop. Michael Hayes was not making a pit stop. He was making a stop, not a pit stop though.
Yeah, for Stephen Hayes, that was a little early, I think, for the. I mean, it's going to work out, right? It's still going to be the two-stop, four-tire pit stop strategy for Stephen Hayes here.
Whoa, Ron Harrington in front of Don Blazer. Contact. Whoa. Don Blazer ain't going to be too happy about that one. Last lap, Blazer was actually pretty quick, too. And that is unfortunate. Some front-end damage there for the 23. Man.
Yeah, I think Ron Harrington's not having his best weekend here, but like I mentioned earlier, these are predominantly oval guys, right? Ron Harrington is a C-class road racer, so he doesn't have a ton of experience with this kind of layout. But I mean, you got to run them to be good, right? And you can tell from the front couple, these guys are fast on ovals and they're fast on road courses because they put in the time, right? Bobby Mantle has just not put a tire wrong all race. And has managed to take the lead, and Austin McGill just has the absolute raw speed, and all that comes from practice, you know. I think each of them could even hone their craft to be a little bit better, right? Austin could hone it to be a little bit less mistake prone here, and Mansell could obviously have a little bit more speed from the beginning run, but you know, there's going to be weaknesses in everybody's game, and that's one of those wonderful things about coming to a road course whenever you're not used to it. You can really kind of pick and choose other people's weaknesses and see where their weak spots are, like I believe Mansell did whenever he passed Austin, whenever he was seeing his rear end get so loose going into turn 2.
What was so heartbreaking for me for Don Blazer getting involved with Ron Harrington like that? I mean, yeah, Ron doesn't know this track and made a mistake, but he endangered someone else's race. And I know that, you know, it's going to happen. You're on a racetrack, you know the risks. But Don was hitting the minute 29-second laps. That's around where the leaders were hitting. Blazer had an opportunity to possibly get a nice top 10 finish here, and he still does. But I'm just saying, it's kind of a heartbreaker there for Blazer, because I know he just always hasn't seen bad luck. I mean, you talk about putting in time, right, to get good at a track like this. Blazer, I think you could see with the way his pace was, he had put in a lot of time. But then something bad happens, just bad luck. But it looks like we do have some more guys coming down pit road. It looks like pit road quite busy, as I do believe EJ Luna is coming down. And I think we saw Daniel Ott as well.
You can tell these guys are hard committed to the two-stop, taking 4 tires on each stop strategy. The leaders have stayed out, though, so I don't know exactly if they've done more calculations and figured out if the take 4 tires at almost halfway and then just doing a splash of fuel is faster. I haven't seen too much fall off on the lap times. Bobby's only a second slower than his fastest lap, and he's the leader, so I honestly don't know if tires will play too big of a factor. It looks like the running the fuel mileage all the way out, taking 4, and then taking a splash of gas at the end is probably going to be the winning strategy.
That's interesting. That will be an interesting call. I mean, we'll have to see if that's what Mantle decides to do, or Austin McGill. It seems like if they were going to pit, they probably already would have. But then again, I mean, they can be on a different strategy and it work out, considering how far away they were from other drivers. Of course, Chad McGinley seems to be somewhat on that strategy as well. We have seen a lot of drivers come down pit road. Of course, at the moment, the top 7 are still on 23 lap old tires. We'll have to see how long that lasts, but I'm definitely curious to see what this looks like. Definitely been enjoying the race thus far. I definitely think that this is going to be, I don't know who's going to win. I think it's all going to come down to mistakes here. And also, when you think about road course racing, now this is not an endurance race. This is not like the Daytona 24 Hours or anything like that. But it still does have that sort of endurance feel to it when it comes to focus and mental fortitude, I'd say. Because, I mean, a lot of times when you're at a race like this, you don't have a break. Because there's no cautions, there is no time for you to kind of take that mental breath. And, you know, a lot of times when you get closer and closer to the end of these races, your brain kind of just starts to shut off in little increments. When you say to where, you know, you make those huge, bigger mistakes because you're not paying attention. It looks like Mantle has decided to come down pit road.
Yeah, this is actually incredibly surprising to me. I was about to say, if I was Austin McGill, I would, especially since he was so good on new tires compared to everybody, if I was McGill, I would have tried to force the leader into this two-stop strategy, right, where you're taking 4 tires both times. I think that McGill would benefit the most from it, just from him being so fast whenever the rubber's brand new. I'm kind of surprised that it went the opposite way. I really did not think McGill would be the one on the racetrack and Mantle the one in pit road, but maybe I imagine McGill decided he was going to do whatever the opposite of what Mantle was going to do. So instead of a close visual battle for the lead, I think we're just going to have a strategy battle that comes down to, you know, the last couple laps after all the pit stops have cycled through. Where are they going to shake out?
I like this call from Mantle. I think it takes the short pit ability from McGill. Like, I mean, a lot of times, even at ovals, that's kind of a big strategy. You try to take that away. The leader, most of the time, everybody does, they try to short pit the leader to jump in front of them. But when you pit before them, they can't really do it. You know what I mean? I think that's exactly what Mantle's kind of, you know, thing was there to try to do that. But look at the difference here at lap times. When these guys on new tires. I mean, look at a guy like Mark Royce. He just set his fastest lap of the race on those fresh tires. Minute 27.616. You know, Daniel Ott, same way. Minute 27.120. These guys are running their fastest laps now, and I think it's because they've had more seat time as a result of the race, and now they're on the fresh tires, and they feel like ain't nobody can tell me nothing now.
Yeah, and we've got the leader, Austin McGill, in. So I guess nobody wanted to go on that alternate strategy. I really think that 8 or 9 seconds you save in pit road would be big, but McGill is probably going to be the big loser out of this, right? If Mantle has a really, really good outlap, and I'm going to follow him here. He's already he's coming out of the turn, or he's going into turn 1 right now, passing for the lead. He's going to have a better run all the way down this front stretch, or this, second stretch of straightaway here. And he's going to have a way bigger gap than he's had the entire race.
Keep in mind, though, if Austin plays this card right, we saw how fast he was on the new tires. He was hitting minute 26-second laps. If he does that again, Mantle's going to have a problem, because Mantle's going to be, because I mean, if Austin is able to have that speed and not make as big of a mistake as he did in that last run, he's going to get past Mantle. But then again, I mean, this could even be a point of contention where we see some more bumpers or doors banging, because I mean, if Austin's running that much faster and McGill doesn't want to let him go, we could see some conflict.
Yeah, but as we talked about earlier, the passing is just so tough here. So we'll see just how well Mantle can defend.
100%. Well, while we have a moment here before this battle actually takes place, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with some more Global Racing Truck Series action.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Global Racing Truck Series presented by Grid Vision. Of course, my name is Brian Britt. I got Austin Edstrom down here in the commentating booth with me. Of course, Austin Darbyshire down behind the cameras. The racing has intensified for the lead as Bobby Mantle is fending off Austin McGill and doing a dang good job at it as well, Austin, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, he's doing a great job. I mean, he made a couple mistakes in the middle sector that last lap, just kind of running wide. But he really gapped Austin back. I believe it was turn one. Austin got in just a little slow and came out a little loose, and Mantle was able to build that gap back up just a little bit. So obviously, I think Bobby Mantle is really just trying to hold on to the lead for about 10 laps until his tires take the advantage back from Austin. Because we saw earlier the long run, Mantle was just a little bit better, a little bit smoother, and Austin kind of likes to drive that ever-living hell out of his truck. So I'm sure he's a little impatient. Oh, they get past the lap truck there, the 21. Ricky Hudgens, honestly, good job of him to get out of the way like that. It looked a little squirrely, but he did a great job there for the leaders and maybe the tightest section of the track, so credit to him. Doesn't affect the battle whatsoever, and the leaders stay 1-2 with no issues.
Yeah, sure. That definitely could have went a different way, but yeah, Ricky stayed out of the way. Very difficult to do that at a road course when you're that lap car. But yeah, I mean, Mantle is turning some of his fastest laps of the race right now. Now, of course, in that last stint, we touched on the point that he was hitting about a minute 28 second lap pretty consistently, and never really went below that. This run is different. This run is looking like he's hitting minute 27.2, minute 27.069 is his fastest in this stint. Is he going to burn his tires up this time? And I think that's a major question that I think we're going to have answered. But then again, maybe he's like, maybe the pressure of Austin McGill being behind him is causing him to drive it a little bit faster.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is. And you can see Austin just putting so much pressure on Mantle here through the last sector. But you could tell coming out of turn 2 of this lap, as they get a little closer, but coming out of turn 2 of this lap, you could just tell from the different lines that they were running that Mantle's still taking care of his tires a little bit, right? He had a shallower entry, broke a little bit earlier than Austin, and whenever he came out, he had a very straight exit while Austin had the back end stepping out. You know, right now that's fast because Austin's got the grip to hang on to it. It did lose him a little bit of time on exit, but as the run gets on and he continues to burn that left rear coming out of these right-handers, it's just gonna, you know, the truck's gonna get worse just like it did for him on the last run.
And also, I remember we talked about it a little bit during the commercial. Stephen Hayes has been making up quite a bit of distance as well. We talked about he had kind of short pitted, fallen back to 13th place. Now he's up to 6th. And he's running some good laps. He's faster than David Holsey, who's in front of him. The gap's not that big there. Of course, he does have Chad McGinley, who's about 0.2 faster than him behind him, about a second behind him. Of course, Stephen Knight as well right there. So, I mean, there's still a lot of moving pieces that are in this top 10 that could quite, you know, we've been focusing on the lead, but there's a lot that could change in this top 10.
Yeah, Stephen Hayes, honestly, with that short pit, it's going to hurt him throughout the rest of the run, right? But for those 4, 5, 6 laps that he had new tires and everybody else didn't, he'd cut the lead down from 22 seconds to 16. It's back up to 20, so obviously the tires are hurting him a little bit now, so he might lose a couple more spots, but at the end of the day, he kind of had to take a risk to get some of that track position back, see if he could kind of regather after he spun himself across, I believe it was Mark Royce's nose earlier. But, I mean, he hasn't put a foot wrong since then, and, I mean, he's climbed from 13th to 6th in just about no time at all, and he's going to have that same short pit advantage later again. I'm sure he'll have to pit a little bit earlier than everybody else, so you might see a similar circumstance the second time around.
Yeah, I mean, if he gains more positions, I mean, and when we talk about it's one thing to catch someone, it's another thing to pass as well. I mean, he's much faster than David Holsey in front of him. Holsey's actually on 29 lap old equipment right now, so he's on a way different strategy than everyone else at the moment. I'm wondering what this is. I think you mentioned that off the wall strategy before. I think that's what David Holsey's doing. I think that he's gonna try to run it out, hop down pit road, take 4 tires, run it out, and then just take fuel only and get back out there.
Yeah, I do think that's what he's doing. I think he's the only one in the field doing it. The only problem for his is he is 20 seconds back from the lead, so it's not like the strategy is going to net him, you know, a first, second, or third or anything like that. But you know, if he plays it right, it is going to save him 9 seconds in the pit stop, and you know, he hasn't fallen off too heavy. He's been consistently running 29s to 30s all race. That's just his pace. There was a couple 31s towards the end of the run here, but he's kind of regathered himself. So I think that's just kind of his pace on the old tires, and he's probably aware that he's probably not the fastest guy on road courses here, so he's got to try something different. And honestly, it could net him a couple more positions from where he started.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, it's an interesting decision. I don't think, like you said, I don't think it's a race winning strategy. I think it's more of an act of desperation. Like, hey, you know, I need to get as many points as I can here. And I think that's what he's trying to do, is just get points. Of course, Stephen Hayes still closing in here. Bobby Mansell, though, fantastic job from him being able to hold off Austin McGill with how fast he was earlier. Here, as we look off the back, I do believe, of David Holsey. Freedman's not free. Love that. That's nice. Off the back of this 5 aces, David Holsey. But I do want to, I've actually forgot about it. We were talking about it under commercial. I did not realize this. Of course, he's not here in the race today, and it could be as a result of this, but happy birthday to Michael Lester out there. Of course, that driver, we sorely miss him being on the racetrack, but of course he's probably out celebrating. We do hope that if he watches this and listens, that he knows that Grid Vision did. We wish him a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Michael. And he might get rewarded with a battle for the lead here if he's watching. Austin has absolutely closed the gap back down. I mean, it just keeps kind of yo-yoing between right on Mansell's bumper and then about 5/10, and then right on his bumper and then about 5/10. We're finally seeing mistakes out of Mansell, right? He's missing a couple apexes. I haven't really seen him get too loose yet, but he's definitely missed the turn-in points of a couple corners here. He just did it right there, completely missed the apex. It's not going to really give. Oh man, I didn't think it would give Austin a chance, but he thought about it, saved both cars. That was dangerous.
A lot of smoke there from Austin. Austin had to light those brakes up in order to not hit the 89.
Yeah, Bobby just looked a little indecisive. It didn't look like if he knew that he wanted the inside or the outside. He didn't know if Austin was going to have the run there, so he kind of went half defensive, and it really put Austin off, but that might end up helping Mansell in the long run because his truck's completely clean. He didn't slide a tire, but Austin's front tires definitely took a beating whenever he locked up both of them to avoid from running into the back of the 89.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the smoke trail. Well, I mean, smoke don't come from nothing. I mean, that's usually the tires. I mean, some rubber just got burnt off, you know?
Absolutely. That's going to hurt his turn-in for the rest of the run. It's not going to be, like, too degrading. Flat spots are not coded into iRacing to the exact extent. It'll definitely wear out the tires more than they want to, the drivers, that is. But, you know, if it was real life, he would have flat spotted something there, and he would have been feeling a vibration for the rest of the run. He's not going to get that. He's just going to lose some turn-in ability, and that hurts your whole corner, right? It changes how you enter as he gets loose coming out of turn 7, I believe. But he's still held the gap pretty even. The leaders are side by side coming over the crest.
Yeah, they were trying to get by EJ Luna. EJ Luna actually making it a little bit more difficult for these guys to pass. And that has caused him to go side by side here as we, of course, were watching back David Holsey going off the racetrack. And it looks like, yeah, Austin McGill has taken the lead. We're going to probably want to take a replay back at this battle. Of course, seeing the exchange for the lead. EJ Luna finally getting out of the way. And I think that's what kind of caused this battle to take place. You can see Luna was kind of taking. He was in the racing groove. He was like, I mean, and that's it. It's their responsibility to get by him. He doesn't necessarily have to just pull over. And I think that's what he was he was definitely using that right.
Yeah, I think there was enough of a gap where it definitely put Mansell off, right? Like Mansell missed the apex, he went wide. That gave Austin the opportunity to get by him, and so I definitely think that the lap truck there put him off. But in all seriousness, Mansell still should have made that corner. He should have been able to hit that apex and drive off. There was not any pressure, but he made that little mistake that we saw Austin making in the first stint, and it's just kind of flip-flops, So we'll see now that Austin's back in the lead, like we said earlier. Following seems to be a lot easier whenever it's two guys of about equal pace. So we'll see if Austin makes another mistake throughout the last half of this race.
100%. Of course, while we do have a moment, I'd like to shout out another one of our partners here with Grid Vision, of course, that being Team Watson Racing Setups. Team Watson offers out-of-the-box fast setups that are proven to win no matter what split you're competing in, and are trusted by many top-level oval racers. If you're looking to take your iRacing career to the next level, check out TeamWatsonRacing.com. I definitely love that we are partnered with two different setup shops, and glad that a lot of times you wouldn't see a lot of broadcasts that shout out two different shops.
Yeah, there might be a little bit of competition there, but we'll call it friendly competition.
That's right. And now, of course, now that Austin McGill has taken the lead, he's starting to pull away. He's got about a 9/10 of a second lead now on Mansell. Of course, Mansell, I don't think he's done. I think that he's gonna regroup. He's been that guy that has been very steady. I think when it comes to steady mind, focus, not a lot seems to be shaking this guy. So I think he's gonna just get back on the horse and continue to do what he's got to do. Get back into that same mindset he had earlier in the race.
Yeah, ever since the pit stop, he's just been a little on edge. You can tell I don't know what it is, but on the newer tires, he just doesn't feel as comfortable, as confident. I don't know if it's the going from the warm old tires that are just completely worn thin to the new tires that has just kind of put him off a little bit. I know sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to get up to speed after I've been on really, really old tires and then put up new ones. So I don't know if that's exactly what's going on with him, but we're finally seeing him starting to get loose and make mistakes that we had been seeing Austin make. Yeah,
for sure. I think we're watching back Steve Gerber. I think he might have had a mistake here himself. Yep. Locked up the tires, went for a little bit of a 180 there.
So easy to do that in that corner.
Also saw Stephen Hayes lose a couple spots. He got passed by Chad McGinley and Stephen Knight. So so he's starting to lose some spots, being on a little bit older tires than those guys.
Yeah, he just got.
Go ahead.
My apologies. He just got a little too deep into turn one, and he just never was able to correct the earlier mistake. Just gets his left side tires in the grass exiting turn two, and both trucks go past him. Not a major mistake, something he can stay on track, and with his alternate strategy, he very well could just pass these guys on the pit cycle. So if I'm him, I'm not worried too much. I think he's still very much got a top 5 truck, and I think he knows it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's definitely had quite a story, recovery story for sure. I mean, the guy went all the way to 15th. I mean, spun out completely, dropped through the field like a rock, and he's done what he needs to do to get back up through this field, and it's really worked out well for him. Of course, his brother right there behind him, Michael Hayes, is not on the same lap as him. He got a little bit loose there. But even though these guys that are laps down, I'm surprised that they're still in the race. But I think that they're showing a lot of, I'd say, persistence. And, a lot of guys would have given up by now. But a lot of these guys out here definitely seem like they don't have that, they have that don't quit attitude, I'd say, in a lot of ways. As this battle for the lead has still been pretty much staying at the forefront of our minds here. I mean, it's been still within a second. Mansell, through some of these corners, is really closing in on Austin. I think both of these guys are fast in their own right, but faster in certain portions of the track.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Mansell just kind of had a really bad last couple corners. It seemed like he had closed that gap a good bit over that lap, but it just kind of all went away there. I thought he had cut it to maybe 7/10, but then it goes right back up to 1.1 coming out of the last corner. So just little mistakes here and there from both drivers are just kind of keeping them both honest, right? Both of them are missing apexes every now and again, and as long as they stay within a 2-second gap, I really don't see this race being over unless somebody breaks that. And even then, I mean, we saw Austin make a mistake that cost him 8 seconds earlier. So this race really is not going to be over until the last lap.
Oh yeah, for sure. And as I mentioned before, as we continue to run, I mean the pressure is going to continue to mount. I should say, you know, the mental fatigue is going to continue to wear thin, to where these guys are going to make more and more mistakes. You know, I mean it's just almost like being on the interstate. I mean, you drive for an hour on the interstate. Eventually, your brain's going to kind of shut off automatically, and you're going to subconsciously be driving. Sometimes that's better. Some guys do better when they're like that. That kind of makes the muscle memory more of the focal point. But when you haven't had a ton of seat time around a road course, a lot of times that could be a bad thing. You know, to where if you're not paying attention and you're not like kind of like I'd say in control, you know, consciously controlling what's going on here, and you let the subconscious kind of take over, a lot of times mistakes happen as a result of that. You know, you're not paying attention to lap car. You come up and hit them, especially at a road course. You have to be 100% focused. And a lot of times at a road course like this, if you get that kind of white line fever, that can cause issues later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're seeing Mansell do exactly what Austin was doing in that first stint. He's just driving a little over the limit that he had kind of set for himself at the beginning of the race. And we're starting to see his back end do these little twitches into the heavy braking zone that we had not seen all race. Going into turn 4 there, that looked pretty, turn 4 there, that looked pretty good. But going into turn 1, the last lap, he got really squirrely under braking and just completely missed the bottom. So I just think we're seeing, it keeps flip-flopping between the top two. Who's making the mistakes? Who's driving better? And I don't know, we could see it flip-flop again later.
Yeah, this is definitely interesting. I think that Austin, in a lot of ways, learned his lesson. I think he was like, you know, I can't let that happen again like it did in the first stint. Now, I think Bobby is like, you know, I was really cautious in the first stint. Now it's time I'm trying to turn it up, and now he's making the same mistakes that Austin did. So, and we still do have, you know, another green flag stop with fresh tires, so another opportunity for, as you mentioned, for that to flip-flop once again. Of course, as I do believe we're coming up now 30 laps to go here. And, man, it has been quite the race so far. We've done 38 laps. I mean, this has definitely been quite the slog for these drivers out here. Like I said, this is a lot like an endurance race. I wouldn't be surprised that a lot of these guys' muscles are pretty tense and starting to be a little bit worn out, just considering they've only done one road course race this entire season. And it's quite a long season. We've already been at this for several months.
It's a long season, and it's a long race. I mean, 67 laps for a road course in a NASCAR car. You know, you don't really see that too often on the surface, right? I believe most of these races, even the NIS races, don't feel like they're quite this long. But, I mean, the front two are just doing a hell of a job keeping each other honest. The gap has opened a little bit, but, you know, we're kind of starting to get a battle for 5th place on the racetrack, I believe. Chad McGinley and Stephen C. Knight have kind of found each other. They were half a second apart at the start of this lap. I think McGinley's pulled it open just a little bit, but that looks to be the closest battle on the racetrack right now.
Yeah, 100%. Stephen Knight, he's been kind of a quiet driver here tonight. I haven't talked a whole lot about that 79, but he's been showing a lot of speed, and been very, very impressed with him. Of course, right there, pretty close to Chad McGinley. Could he possibly take that position away? I think he's been very consistent. And the fact that we haven't talked a lot about him, I think says it's a good thing a lot of times. You know, while we talked about before about Ricky Hutchins and Jeff Weimer, they were like, "Oh, don't show us." It's like, well, if you do stuff, whether bad or good, a lot of times we're going to talk about you more. So that's why we haven't really had a chance to talk about Stephen Knight. He's had a relatively, I'd say, medium, mild race. Nothing really to talk a lot about, except now I think it's starting to pay off where he hasn't made a lot of mistakes. He's up right on the edge of the top 5, starting to put some pressure on Chad McGinley. Last time by, he was a little over a tenth faster than McGinley, so I think that battle is going to start to heat up here soon.
Yeah, he's doing a great job following him through the course here. I mean, especially going into the downhill braking zone. Stephen Knight, I don't know what it was, but coming out of the first chicane, sorry, I've got my my corners on this track all messed up, but we're coming up to that point of the racetrack right here, turn 4 and 5. That downhill afterwards, he just made so much time up and clobbered the apex perfect. He got a little squirrely on exit, but his downhill braking just seems to be a little bit better than McGinley here, and it seemed to be where he was making up his time on the last lap.
Now, yeah, I mean, and one thing these guys could be as well doing is, adjusting brake bias and stuff like that. How important do you think that is at a track like this? And we're also seeing a little bit more overcast start to come out as well. So, I mean, the track temp, let's take a quick look at that.
Could be gripping up a little bit.
And it looks like 89 degrees. I know we started out with about 94 degrees, so it has cooled off a little bit out here. Could be adding some more grip.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steven again is just doing such a great job following McGinley. I can't stress enough how hard it is to just follow another one of these NASCAR cars through any of these road courses. I mean, whenever it's a single lane, single file kind of thing, it's so hard to build that run on the guy in front of you without them making a mistake. But Steven has just continuously put pressure on McGinley the last few laps, and I really think he's going to get the move done probably in turn 4 here on the next lap.
Yeah, and of course these trucks don't produce a lot of downforce as it is, and when you're following right behind someone, that causes the downforce to be even less. Another driver we haven't really talked about. Oh, it looks like Ricky Hudgens off the racetrack again, as of course the battle for that 5th spot is continuously heating up. The 62 of Daniel Ott, he's another one. We haven't talked about Stephen Knight. Well, that's another driver we haven't talked about. Daniel Ott, he's up here in 3rd. Where did this guy come from? I mean, I literally don't know where he came from,
I was watching Mark Royce behind him a little bit, and I was looking ahead, and I thought Mark was going to end up challenging Daniel at some point because Daniel just seemed to get loose, get a little skittish in a lot of corners, and kind of missing the apex, but he's still making it work, making it fast, and he's actually pulled about a 3-second gap on Mark since I saw that a few laps ago.
I mean, Mark Royce's last lap, minute 30.568, so he's starting to struggle. Ott, though, he's running really good pace right now. He's probably, I think he's running 3rd quick on the track right now. So he's definitely doing really well. That 62, another guy that I just didn't really expect much from him. I mean, he was out on the edge of the top 10 for a lot of this race, and now is up in the top 3. So he's definitely something. They're making the right decisions here. Of course, they still. I don't think they have really a shot to win this race unless Austin and Bobby make huge mistakes. They're about 22 seconds back from the leader at the moment.
Yeah, we still got that pit stop to come up too, right? They pitted around lap 23, I believe. We're sitting on 46, so expect pit stops around 5 laps from now, 6 laps from now, if I had to bet. Maybe a little bit later, and you're definitely going to see Stephen Hayes come in a little earlier. He's honestly done a great job hanging on to the back of the battle for 5th on old tires.
And he's actually faster than the guys in front of him, which is kind of interesting to see. He's faster than Knight last time by. He's faster than McGinley. He was faster than Royce. He was faster than Daniel Ott. I mean, he's looking good. I mean, and like you said, I think soon he's going to be pitting again, and he's going to be able to use those new tires to his advantage. As, of course, Knight seems to be very much struggling to get by McGinley. He's got more speed than he does, but McGinley's not giving up this position. And that's why I mentioned before, it's one thing to catch someone, it's another thing completely to try to to actually pass them. I mean, it's an equation. One guy, if he don't want to let you go, it's going to be very difficult to get by, and you're just going to have to wait for him to make a mistake.
Yeah, we saw Knight make a mistake last lap, finally, and it cost him about a second, but after, the next lap, he's right back on the back bumper of McGinley. Like you mentioned, it's just so tough to pass. He can't find a way through. He's really just waiting on McGinley to make a mistake, but to Chad's credit, he hasn't put a wheel wrong either. He's just a minute difference slower than Steven, but if you got the track position and you can block them off, it's about where you finish, not whether you're faster than them or not.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just know a lot of these, not to talk bad about Global Racing League, but a lot of these guys, they can be quite aggressive, and when you sit in front of them for long enough, and they're like, man, I'm faster than you, and you're not letting me go, they might throw a bumper. I mean, it might happen. Like, you're going to be able to block me. You're like, oh, you're end up going to go take the ride through the grass. That's what's going to happen.
My bad on that, but yeah, there's so many big braking zones. You can honestly just pick and choose which corner you want to bump somebody off on. The safest for the guy you're bumping is probably turn 1. So maybe if you're a little nicer, you do it there, just so they, run out to the outside lane instead of into the grass. But Steven's done a great job here. He's been running them clean. He's kind of peaked his nose a couple times, but he just wasn't quite in that vortex. I've heard people call it the vortex of danger. He's not throwing his nose into there last minute like I've seen a lot of people in road course lobbies. So credit to him, he's racing clean, racing hard, and he's a little faster, but he's doing a great job just keeping the car clean. We still got 30 laps left. He's got a long way to go. 35 laps left. Yeah, he's doing a great job keeping a handle on that truck. Sorry, 25 to go. Math.
I'll tell you, man, I've been loving what I'm seeing from Stephen Hayes. He's showing a lot of speed. I mean, for being he's on like 6 lap older tires than these guys that are in front of him, and he's running faster than them consistently. I mean, this guy, what a redemption story. He has turned the biggest mess into the biggest message out here tonight.
Here's the thing, we've seen a bunch of people put a wheel off, right? And most of them have kind of done it multiple times, but Hayes here, he made one mistake where he was side by side battling with somebody. Both guys maybe just didn't give enough room. I'd pin most of the blame on Hayes, but he's done a hell of a job recovering. I mean, you get sent back to 13th, spinning through the grass on the first couple laps, and by the second pit stop, you're back up to 7th and on the bumper of 6th and 5th. And honestly, 4th and 3rd are not out of the question for him with the lap times that he's running.
Yeah, 100%. And like we said before, he's going to probably end up pitting here very soon. Going to be taking advantage of those new tires. He's actually getting pretty close to the end of his fuel window. I do believe in the next 6 or 7 laps, he's going to be possibly running out of gas. Of course, speaking of that, a lot of guys are going to be getting close to that, not the end of the fuel window, but probably close to where they're going to be thinking about pitting. A lot of these drivers pitted around 20 or so laps into their stint, or 24 to go now. Here actually comes Mark Royce, I do believe, down pit road. And Daniel Watt.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm kind of surprised to see Hayes not double down on his strategy, right? The pit window's been open for about 5 to 7 laps here. You could make it from to the end from there. But Steven is on the oldest tires in the whole field, and I'm really surprised to see that he didn't double down on the strategy. And he still could, but that's 3rd and 4th place that I thought that he would be able to run down whenever he put on the tires a little bit earlier. But it just didn't happen, and now he'll be on 1 lap fresher tires and then the rest of the race. But is that really going to be enough to challenge for a podium spot? I don't know, but 5th is still definitely on the cards.
Yeah, definitely very impressive speed though from him to be able to be on that much older tires and still be competitive. That's for sure. And yeah, that is interesting. I'm surprised he didn't try the short pit, but I mean that's I guess he wants to get back on the same strategy as everybody else, possibly.
I could see
we'll
that.
See how that kind of works out.
With his pace, like we have been mentioning, I mean, 4th and 5th in front of him are running his same pace. If he short pits them, I honestly think even if it's just by a lap, he would jump them both. So I'd really like to see him double down here and see what kind of pace he has in clean air if none of the guys in front of him pit here.
Yeah, I mean, why would you pass him on the track if you could pass him on pit road? And there he goes. He's coming down pit road right now. Like, why would you try to pass him on the track? I mean, that's just a headache. I'd rather just pass him in pit road.
And especially with the older tires, right? Like, maybe he could run the same speed as them with the older tires, but as we've been talking about passing, I mean, Steven was on equivalent tires of McGinley, or just about equivalent, and he could not get by him even though he was a little bit faster. So why not short pit and just see if you can get the clean air, the new tires, especially whenever you're only a second back from a couple guys. That's very doable in 1 lap, that second difference.
Oh yeah, very, very much so. I mean, you're gonna be able to do a 1.5 seconds possibly even. I mean, with the fall off we're seeing here at this racetrack. I'm wondering if what Mantle's willing to do. If he's going to be maybe trying to short pit here, as he's dealing with some lap traffic there. Don Blazier is right there. Of course, you see Daniel Watt right there behind him. He's on fresher tires, has now gone a lap down as well. So definitely been shaking this up quite a bit. Of course, we're kind of in the middle of the green flag pit stop sequence.
Yeah, just to kind of put some context around the Stephen Hayes situation. After he pitted last time, his first lap out of the pits, the first full lap obviously out of the pits, he ran a 27.5. The 2 people that he was behind there were running 29.5s. So on his first lap, he's going to be about 2 seconds faster than those guys he was about to battle. If they don't pit here to cover him off, I think they would be in for a rude surprise to see that they both get jumped by Stephen.
I think we might have actually seen a huge mistake from Daniel Watt. Looking at this here, Ott, last lap, 2 minute 26, second lap. Stephen Hayes, he pitted, took a full 4 tire stop, and is still ahead of Ott. Ott was up in 3rd before the green flag stop. I'm pretty sure Ott got a speeding penalty, and is now, because that would be the only way I could explain him going a lap down. He had to have a 40-second hold.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Whenever he came to stop in his pit stall, he's in the third pit box here. He is absolutely stationary, no jack going up on either side of the car for a long portion of time. I believe the penalty's 40 seconds. So I think you nailed it on the head there. He had a big penalty that he had to serve finally after a long time. Those right sides get jacked up. Yeah, he must have been nabbed for speeding for sure.
That's unfortunate too. Give third to make that crucial of a mistake there. So watch Jeff Weimer going around in front of the field there, in front of Austin McGill to be exact. But yeah, that is a huge mistake. I mean, that just shows you could be perfect on the racetrack. Really just do exactly what you need to do. But man, if you make a mistake on pit road, all of that is undone.
Yeah, and he's got to be kicking himself. I'm watching it back. He was going 42 at the pit entrance, and for whatever reason, he gassed it up to 47. I don't know. I guess he was just trying to reach up to that 45 pit speed, but you know, he gassed it up, and he might have just cost himself a podium here.
Yeah, oh, you definitely did. Mansell just coming off the pit road right here, able to pit and come out still in second place. So really good stop there for him. Spent 14.6 in the box, takes 4 tires and fuel. So not going to lose a whole bunch of time. And this could be a gamble to possibly try to see if he can't jump in front of Austin. I don't know if this is going to be, how does Austin answer? We'll have to wait and see. Does he come down pit road? Does he actually, I do believe, just lapped Dale Brooks. Now, Brooks has been, as I mentioned before, the winningest driver this season, but he does not seem like he's very good at the road course.
He might not, but as we were talking about earlier, Stephen Hayes, I mean, the strategy has paid off. He has absolutely gapped the 2 people that were in front of him. He's got the whole second straightaway on both of them.
Isn't that something? He's now up to 4th. And he's about 2.9 seconds, I do believe, back from Mark Royce. So it's possible he could even get up into the top 3. Now, I mean, that would be a headline level story right there for that driver to be able to do that.
I mean, he's doing a hell of a job since the earlier mistake. He honestly hasn't put a tire wrong. You know, I've mentioned that about Bobby earlier. For the whole first stint, he didn't do anything wrong. The whole second stint, Austin didn't really do anything wrong. In fact, he saved Bobby whenever Bobby was a little indecisive in a braking zone. But, I mean, Stephen Hayes, I hate to say it, but if he didn't have that issue earlier, he very well could be in this lead fight.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think if he hadn't made a mistake, he would have been one of the 3 up in the battle here. It looks like Mansell did not really gain much through that short pitting strategy there, because Austin got out and was able to keep that 2-second gap. So, of course, Bobby's been catching it when it comes to lap traffic. He is right behind Steve Gerber. Every time we look at Mansell, it seems like he's having to deal with a different lap car. And Austin just is catching a lot of breaks where he's not having to deal with these guys quite as much.
Yeah, and you can see Mansell's just really trying to outbrake the lap car there into the corner, try to lose as much time, or lose as little time as possible. But, I mean, he only had a 1 lap undercut, I believe, on Austin. And whenever he was already 2.5 seconds back, it's just not enough time for him to make up on a driver of Austin's caliber there.
Yeah, Austin definitely is been just doing a fantastic job. Of course, made huge mistakes earlier in this race, but I think the mistake wasn't big enough to where he wasn't able to learn from it, and he's definitely capitalized on it, and he's in the perfect spot to win this race. But you never want to get too confident. You never want to, because I mean, as soon as you start getting too confident, you could make some mistakes. So hopefully that's not the case here. Of course, while we have a little bit of a lull in the action, we're going to go ahead and take a quick step away and pay some attention to our sponsors. We'll be right back. And, of course, actually, we'll go ahead and do a quick rundown through the field when we come back.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Global Racing Truck Series here, of course, presented by Grid Vision. My name is Brian Britt. I got Austin Edstrom down here as my co-commentator. Austin Derbyshire, of course, down behind the cameras. And, of course, we do appreciate all of our sponsors. We, I do believe, have 18 laps to go, coming to 17 to go. Let's do a quick rundown through the field here and a little bit of an in-depth look here. Austin McGill, of course, out front, started on the outside pole, took the lead on the first lap. Now has about 4.5 seconds of a lead over our second place driver of Bobby Mantle in the 89 machine. Of course, he has led some laps here tonight and has had a fantastic showing. No matter what, you can't take that from him. He's going to get some good points here today. Of course, third place, Mark Royce. He's been up in the top 5 quite a bit here tonight. Of course, he did, I do believe, lose that spot to, I do believe, Daniel Ott, but of course got it back. Now he's actually under fire from, I do believe, Stephen Hayes. Speaking of which, is in that 4th spot. He fell all the way back to 15th position, has worked his way up into possibly even getting back up into the top 3. Of course, 5th place, Chad McGinley, started on the pole here tonight and lost the lead on the first lap. He's been struggling to try to stay up in the top 5 and, of course, been trying to battle with Stephen Knight pretty much all race. Of course, he has about 2 seconds on him now. Knight really was one of the unsung people. We haven't talked a whole lot about that 79. But he's been having a quiet race and is going to get a good points day here. Of course, hometown Earth. That's funny. But definitely great job to Stephen Knight. Of course, Justin LeBlanc, another one. He was very fast in practice. Didn't seem like he was able to really put the race pace down, but he has been having a quiet race. Hasn't had a lot of issues. Love that Grid Vision logo on that Red Bull machine there. But he is up to 7th. Daniel Ott, huge mistake from this driver, was up in 3rd place. Now is back in 8th place. He is at least back on the lead lap. He had to serve a 40-second hold from a speeding penalty. Of course, so still pretty good recovery. I mean, 8th place, that for a 40-second hold, that could have been a whole lot worse. Now back to 9th place, Dale Brooks, of course, our winningest driver this season, has won 5 times. Does not seem like he's as good at the road courses, but of course, he's making the best of a bad situation, sits in that 9th spot. Of course, 10th place, David Halsey. He has shown speed at moments. He does have, good short run speed, but it doesn't seem like he's been able to really maintain a very good long run pace in that 5 Aces machine. But he is intense, so trying to hold on as best he can.
Yeah, and he followed up in P11, Steve Gerber. We've seen him off a couple times, sideways, spinning out. But he's done a good job holding on to it here. Just outside of the top 10 in P11, not too far off the 10th place. Followed by him, we got Don Blazer, who just came out of the pit lane. I believe that's going to be his final pit stop of the night. I can't tell for sure if it was a fuel-only stop, if that's the strategy that he was going for, but he did end up pitting later than everybody else. 13th, EJ Luna. We've seen him off a couple times too. We're kind of getting into the cars that have been lapped, and if you're lapped at this point, you've probably gone off a couple times. And it's a treacherous track. A lot of guys having a lot of issues here. Then down to 14th, we've got the number 1 car, Mike Hayes. We've seen him in the tire barriers a couple times too. It's been a rough night, but you know what? It is what it is. These road courses, they're kind of one-offs in the truck series, not too many of them, so I'm sure he'll be happy to get back onto an oval next week. And then we've got Jeffrey Wimmer in the 15th place in the 73 truck, followed by Ricky Hudges. He did a great job getting out of the way of the leaders earlier. Unfortunately, he's sideways on the grass now, but he's had a rough go of it. Someone else that has had a terrible go of it has been Ron Harrington. He had a bad mistake that kind of cost another lead lap truck earlier in the run. But he's doing a good job keeping it on the pavement here the last few laps as he's letting Daniel Ott go. And then finally we've got 18th place Eric Bergdorf. Unfortunately, he's alt F4'd out of the race. And Jeremy Richmond, I don't believe he started, but he was in the session, but I don't believe he started.
Yeah, I did see him in practice, but I don't think he started either. But definitely a quick rundown through the field there. Definitely really love to go down and see where everybody's at. And man, Stephen Hayes though has moved his way up to 3rd place. As of course we take a replay, and this is of course that pass for 3rd. As you see, Mark Royce I think put a little bit of a tire wrong, gets loose right there, and this is what allows Stephen Hayes to take that position away. And what a run for this driver in the 13. I mean, go all the way from 15th all the way to 3rd. I can't say it enough. This guy has looked fantastic. I mean, he made one mistake, one huge mistake, but he has recovered from it. I mean, that's amazing to see. That's really shows a lot of growth. When you make a mistake like that and you don't dwell on it, that really, I think, is a spectacular thing. That's more impressive than winning a race and not making a mistake, in my opinion. When you make a mistake and you're able to recover from it, that's more of a headline to me than winning a race.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment. I mean, he's half a track back from the leaders now, but whenever you put that mistake into context, ever since then, he hasn't put a tire wrong. He's run all the way up from 13th, 15th to 3rd place. I mean, there's not much else that he could get out of this race after that early mistake. I mean, he's just done such a great job. A little bit off strategy on the first bit to jump a couple of the slower cars in the back half of the top 10. And then ever since then, he's just been passing them on the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, he got himself back on kind of what everybody else's strategy is. And, he's only a lap newer tires than Mark Royce. And he's almost a second. Actually, yeah, he's almost a second. He was actually over a second faster than Royce. So, I mean, he's just overall pace. This guy has been really, really fast. And he's even, last time by, he was faster than Bobby Mantle. So, I mean, if, you kind of mentioned it earlier, if he had possibly not made that mistake, he would be in the battle in the top 2, I do believe.
Yeah, he'd absolutely have a chance for second. That's the thing with the early mistake. You never know just how much time he lost off of, the tires being, cold coming back on the track, right? He's got a little bit of grass on him, got a little bit of sand on him. You never know exactly how much grip they come back on and how much time they lose over the next couple laps, but he absolutely could have been in this race for second if that didn't happen. But again, to his credit, I mean, coming from the back of the field on a road course and just methodically working through everybody, I mean, he's done a hell of a job to find himself in 3rd place.
We do got a green flag stop here. Daniel Ott coming down pit road. It's been in a long time in the box here. This is kind of interesting. I think this might be a calling it quit situation here. This could provide a lot of positions for some of these other drivers here, such as EJ Luna.
Yeah, I think that maybe not a rage quit, but a little upset over the speeding penalty he got earlier. He was only 2 mile an hour over the limit. I've definitely hit it more than 2 mile an hour over the limit across the line before and not gotten a penalty, but I think his problem was he entered under the speed limit and then gassed it up above it. So definitely unfortunate for him that he had to fall so far back, and it looks like he's just maybe a little upset with the situation that he found himself in.
Yeah, for sure. He's still in there, over a minute. He's been sitting in that box, and pretty much, there's no hope for him at all. And EJ Luna is going to probably be like, hey, give me that position. As EJ Luna is actually going to go 2 laps down here as Austin McGill gets by him. Now, McGill's gap now has increased to back to where it was earlier in this race, almost 7 seconds, about 6.3 now. He has on Bobby Mantle, so he's back up to where he was before. I mean, lap time wise, he was about, I do believe, a half a second almost faster than Mantle last time by. But still, you gotta say something about Mantle's race here. I mean, this guy, Bobby Mantle, I gotta be honest with you, doesn't impress me a lot on oval races. I mean, when we watch him, he just doesn't always have a lot of speed. Usually, but this has been a really a banner day for him. I mean, this is a day that makes me want to look at that 89 a little bit more closely when I'm watching him in other races.
Yeah, and you know, Austin McGill has been the class of the field, but that whole second stint, Bobby Mantle was hanging with him, right? We saw McGill run away from the field the first 5 laps, make a mistake, and after that, you could expect him to maybe just pull back away, but Mantle hung with him, made the pass for the lead, was able to hold on to it for a number of laps. So even if he's fallen off at the end of this race, I really think that's more of a credit to McGill and not a slight on Mantle. Because Mantle really hasn't put a foot wrong. He's had a couple little slips with the rear end, but missed a couple apexes. But I mean, he's really kept that truck nice and clean. I think he's kind of come to the conclusion, you know, okay, I need to bring this thing home in P2. McGill's just kind of on another planet. But to your point, I mean, a P2, if he's been struggling on ovals, that goes a long way in the points, you know.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I think it's really going to be a good points day for him, and it could be a big confidence builder as well. And then next time we come to a road course here with the Global Racing Truck Series, he's going to be a lot more, I think, prepared. He's going to know the pitfalls he fell into with McGill before, to where, like, you know, he was like, hey, you know, I kind of started to do what McGill was doing before. I got to run my own race. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I think Mantle's going to take away from this, is that you have to run your own race. You can't let that guy pressure you into doing something different. Because, I mean, what he did in that first stint worked. And if he, you know, I wouldn't have done anything different. I just would have been like, okay, I'm going to stay steady minute 28 second laps. Stay, you know, it worked for me before, you know. Run your own race. I think that can be applied to any race you're in. The ovals, whether, you know, anything. As it looks like Mark Preuss just lost a spot there to Chad McGinley. McGinley moving up to 4th now.
And with Austin McGill's, you know, times that he's running, I mean, he's running really fast lap times for being late on the tires again. And Mansell is still keeping it within half a second. He just got, half a second per lap, but he got held up mega by a lap car coming off the last corner. So it's not going to be shown great that lap. And hell, he was still only a half a second back with the big hold up. He very well could have been even with McGill there. So big credit to Mansell for just staying in the pace.
Oh yeah, for sure. And he's been the second quickest car on the track all, you know, day long. He's been putting together some really good, you know, just a good day in general. I mean, just really something to be proud of. I was kind of looking at his points just now. He's got 1 top 5 and I think 5 top 10s. So I mean, this is a big race for him. I think this is probably this could very well be his best finish all season long. And this is a big momentum builder. I mean, we're going to a tough track next week. We talked about it going back to an oval. We're going to a tough oval though, New Hampshire. It's not an easy place. I mean, that is you know, when you go from a road course to that, I think that sets you up for success at a track like that. Just because, I mean, you're already kind of used to the technical aspects of a road course, and you go to New Hampshire, that's a very technical place as well.
Yeah, the big thing that I think translates is the heavy braking zones, right? You know, New Hampshire's known for the heavy braking zones, and you go around Mid-Ohio and it's full of them, right? Coming out of turn 1 down the big straightaway down to turn 2. I mean, that's a heavy braking zone. And then kind of a New Hampshire-esque corner just to the right. Probably not cambered anywhere near the same, but about the same like dimensions in terms of like how wide the corner is, how far you got to go to get around it. Just opposite direction. And then down into the next heavy braking zone down that longer straightaway. I think that the guys that are good on the heavy braking zones are going to be good in New Hampshire next week. Yeah,
for sure. And I think that, you know, we're going to have another track after that, of course, on the 23rd. That's going to be a lot of the same. Pocono. I mean, that's definitely a track that if you're good at road courses, you're probably going to be good there as well. You know, there's a lot of tracks that are coming up that are going to be heavily involved in that. Of course, even in August, on August 20th, Global Racing, we're going to be going to Watkins Glen. So a lot of I'm sure Bobby Mantle has that one, and Austin McGill probably have that one circled on their calendars. Like, hey, that's an opportunity for me to get something going here. Of course, the chase for this series starts, I do believe, in September, on September 10th. So, you know, still a while away till then. So a lot of opportunities for these guys to really make their you know, presence known here.
Yeah, I think that Watkins Glen race is going to be a good one. The difference between this track and that one, oh man, is David
AJ
Olson
Luna
just gets
sent.
Yeah, he got punted by a car not on his lap, David Holsey was a lap down, but EJ Luna's 2 laps down. He waits for him. The X's don't hurt, it being a league race unless it DQs somebody. So no harm, no foul. I don't think David lost any spots off of that. So not too big of an issue, but definitely EJ Luna maybe needed to hit the brakes just a little bit earlier there.
Yeah, probably not. I'm sure David Holsey probably not too happy with him there. But yeah, like you said, it didn't really cost him much. I mean, Holsey already a lap down. I mean, he's quite a bit of a distance from Dale Brooks. Brooks actually just went a lap down himself, so that leaves only 7 drivers on the lead lap at the moment. So could we possibly see even Stephen Knight go a lap down? I think time is running out to where I don't think we'll see that. We're kind of coming up to 7 laps to go. Oh, it looks like someone else off the track again. I think that's the 73 of Jeff Weimer. Weimer's been just having a time here. So actually, you see Austin McGill's coming up on him. Weimer chooses to go off the track into the grass in order to let him let the leader go by. I like that. That's a good. I mean, self-sacrifice there. You don't want to hurt the leader.
Yeah, I think he contemplated leaving the race right there. He stopped back in the grass.
Thought about it, yeah.
He definitely did. But he thought better of it. He kept going. He's like, I need a couple points. We'll take the couple points here that I can get. But that was a funny little situation. But kind of going back to the Watkins Glen talk, the difference between that track and this track, I think that track's a whole lot more forgiving. It's not just completely covered with grass on both sides of the track, no matter where you go. So I think you're going to see a lot less offs. I think some of these guys that have struggled with the mistakes, they'll still make some minor mistakes, but I don't think they're going to get punished as hard in that race, and it'll probably be a lot closer field as well.
Yeah, Watkins Glen is a lot more of a classic NASCAR track. Everybody knows about that track. Even your most, religious, holy, or oval driver, right? Like religiously drives only ovals, right? They know about Watkins Glen. I mean, they've seen Watkins Glen before. That's when you think of road course racing in NASCAR. It's either that or Sonoma. You think of those 2 tracks when it comes to NASCAR road racing. They've been in the series for forever, essentially, and they all pretty much know the Glen. So I mean, they might not be good at it, but they at least know the layout a lot better than they do Mid-Ohio. Not a lot of guys know this track very well.
Well, a big difficulty for Mid-Ohio, I think, coming from an oval racer, the slower corners. Coming from NASCAR racing, if you're doing those high-speed ovals week in, week out, and you're good at the 1.5 miles, you're good at the 2-mile tracks, and then you go to a track where there's a bunch of 40 mile an hour, 50 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour corners, it's a big difference. And I think that's where the predominantly oval guys lose a lot of the time, is those heavy braking zones into the slow corners. And Watkins Glen, it's got its fair share of that, right? But it's not nearly as bad as a very high-speed road course, especially through the S's section and the way NASCAR runs it without the boot. You take a lot of speed off the carousel and all the way down that chute. So I just think it kind of lends itself more to the oval racing style than most road courses. You mentioned Sonoma. That is a technical, slow track, and for me, it's always been the most difficult road course for me to figure out in an oval car. And I think it's a lot because of the what I mentioned earlier, just the slow corners are just so tough for somebody that's not used to it. Absolutely, man. The elevation changes catch people out like crazy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely another elevation type, change track, and Watkins Glen doesn't really have as much of that, which is going to be easier for sure. So I expect we will see more competition there at Watkins Glen, but I've been impressed with the competition we've seen here at this track. I think that we've seen a lot of guys rise to the occasion a lot more than I thought that they truly would. I mean, to be honest, this Global Racing League, there's a lot of guys. I mean, this is like one of the first seasons that we've really seen road course racing. In season past, when I've called this series for a long time, even without being under the Grid Vision banner. And I've called a lot of races here, and this is the first season that we've really seen road course racing. I mean, the other season before, when the Truck Series went to a road course, a lot of times these guys would vote to decide, like, hey, let's go somewhere else. But now they're wholly committed. It does appear to just run into road courses. Like, let's just let these guys do it. A lot of these guys that have been joining this series recently want that, I think, genuine NASCAR truck experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love about iRacing, right? You get the real life schedule every week. Now with the trucks, it's a little sporadic because the real life truck schedule, especially for official races, right? The real life truck schedule is a little sporadic. They'll have like 3 weeks off here, 2 weeks off here, so it's kind of hard to get that exact flow of the truck series in iRacing. But for the other series and on the weeks where the trucks are where they're supposed to be, it's really cool being able to run on the same tracks every week that the real guys in real life are doing, and you know it makes you appreciate it more, especially you know, Atlanta this week. I've run a lot of A Open, and it's just mental what you're doing on the sim to think that these guys put their body on the line and their lives on the line every week doing that kind of stuff in real life is really cool. And just being able to run the same track and experience the same things as those guys, minus the danger, is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll say, if we had some of the wrecks that they had in on the iRacing, if we had to actually deal with the physical things of that, man, there'd be a lot of us wouldn't be alive right now. 'Cause the way we flip and do all kinds of craziness on iRacing, man, you wouldn't take near the risk you would in real life.
We need to have a setup where you just have something like sitting right in front of your stomach to knock the breath out of you if you hit the wall too hard.
I'm sure a lot of guys would love it. I'm sure a lot of guys would love it if they could set up some type of fist that would come out of your screen and hit someone whenever they talk crap.
Yeah, the most you see in iRacing is really, in terms of injuries, is just broken fingers, maybe a snapped wrist here too. If you
how about say direct drive wheels? Our producer just mentioned direct drive wheels. When you have that force feedback up high enough and you rack, it will snatch you. If you're holding on to that wheel, it'll snatch and it'll break your wrist.
Yeah, you're not kidding. I saw a YouTube short the other day of someone in I believe it was an F1 lobby, that was he just got rear-ended under caution or under the pace lap of someone from behind and snapped his pinky. That's not a.
My goodness.
It's not as bad as wrecking in real life, I imagine, but I definitely wouldn't want to walk away from a virtual race with a snapped pinky.
Can you imagine telling that story to somebody, like at work? You're like, "What happened, brother?" "Oh, I broke my pinky sim racing." Can you imagine trying to tell somebody that?
I'm already just about embarrassed.
You're getting really loose off the corner there.
Oh man, I couldn't imagine him
starting
throwing
to
away an
struggle a
8.5 second
little bit.
lead here.
He is. He's about now a little under 7 seconds now here. So
Man,
he's got plenty to work with here. Pretty good cushion. I think that he might. I don't know what's going on here. If he's losing focus or somebody's down pit road as well, I do believe.
he knows he's coming to 3 to go here. At this point, if I'm Austin, which I guess I am, but if I'm this Austin, I would definitely back it down a little bit. You don't have to run so hard. It's a 7.2 second gap, even with he had a terrible lap last time, and Bobby only pulled 1.3 seconds. If he does that the next 3 laps, Bobby is still not going to catch him. So he really just needs to keep his car on the track and not make a mistake. But he's still getting sideways out of just about every corner.
I think he's playing around. That's what it seems like to me. I think he's. Hopefully he doesn't put. If he makes too big of a mistake though, and we saw that 7 or 8 second lead before go down to none, and if he does that here, just playing around and showboating.
Oh my goodness.
He's showboating right now, and I think that it could end up paying. It could end up hurting him.
I really don't know if it's showboating. I really don't think that's showboating. He's not really like jerking the wheel or doing anything too crazy. It's just that thing is evil on him right now, and we saw this in the first stint. He was sideways most of the time. I don't know. I wouldn't be playing even with a 6 second lead.
Yeah, I don't know if he's playing right now, trying to give us a show. He might be gifting Bobby Mantle a win here if you don't watch out as he comes to 2 to go. I mean, you still got to make it 2 circuits around this track. If he is legit struggling right now, he's still got to make it 2 circuits around this track.
Yeah, absolutely. If this is a serious struggle and he's not, well, I mean, he's playing with it right here on the front stretch. That's a little different, but I don't know. Just the exit of the corner, putting that right rear out. I'd be a little worried, especially coming out of turn 2, where he made the mistake earlier. Yeah, he's definitely playing around.
He's playing around.
but I don't know. I get it. I like the showmanship. I think it's funny.
It won't be funny when you wreck your car.
My whole thing is like, if I hadn't made a mistake earlier in the race, sure, but that turn 1 mistake would just be in the back of my mind, like, oh man, don't do that again. But if he can handle it, he can handle it.
Yeah, don't tempt the iRacing gods. Never know what could happen here. I mean, I'm telling you, you don't know.
I'm sure he's having fun with it at this point.
He's having fun, yeah, but I mean, that gap is increasing more and more and more. I mean, I think he hasn't been he's not playing around anymore. I think maybe he's listening to the broadcast. He might be listening to us right now.
Yeah, I think he was throwing it around on the straightaways just to kind of give us a little bit of a show. He knew we were talking about him a little bit. I mean, obviously, coming to the last lap here, we need to talk about the race leader. I mean, he is, after that first mistake, I had mentioned his rear end was really wobbly going into the corners over the last half of that first stint after that mistake. It seemed like he was really struggling in the braking zones. But as soon as that second stint started and he was behind Mansell, I didn't really ever see the back end of that truck step out again until, a couple laps ago whenever he's playing around. I mean, he has just absolutely drove the wheels off this thing as we start the final lap here.
Yeah, I think what it is, he could have even made an adjustment to the race car. I mean, he could have easily, made some sort of adjustment to kind of secure the rear a little bit better. Because, we don't talk about it a lot, but this is an open setup series. And these guys do have that option to where when they pop down pit road, they can make a quick adjustment to possibly, maybe create a little bit more downforce on the rear and keep it locked down a little bit more and to make it a little more comfortable for himself as he's playing around again. But he is on the last lap.
That ain't the braking zone I'd do it in, but I mean, he knows he's got this thing won as long as he doesn't go off track. So he was wiggling in the middle of the track, but he very well could have just made the simple brake bias adjustment. I know you had asked about it earlier, like how big of a deal it could be, and I mean, if that's the adjustment he made, it has completely stabilized that car. He's only wiggling whenever he's intentionally wiggling. I mean, he is just flying away from the field, or was whenever he was trying.
He's purposely letting Mansell catch up right now. Mansell's about 3.7. But yeah, I think he like you said, either way he's gonna be able to get it done here. But I'm sure Mansell's licking his chops at the moment. But yep, here we go. Austin McGill is going to cross the start-finish line here as your winner at Mid-Ohio. Definitely a great job from him. Took the lead on the first lap. Didn't lead every lap, but led almost all of them. We're watching Stephen Hayes. He's quite a distance away from Bobby Mansell, who crossed the line just a little bit ago. And Bobby Mansell now coming up to give a congratulations here to Austin McGill.
Yeah, there's a big gap back to the rest of the field. If Stephen hadn't have had that mistake early on, he very well could be within 10 seconds of the leader and fighting Mansell for P2. But, we got three trucks coming up here for 5th, 6th, 7th. They're all separated by about a second half each. But if one of them make a mistake, maybe somebody could pip a last-second top 5.
Definitely could be. David Holsey, I know he just won. He's in the tire barriers right now. David Holsey, I don't think he's finished his race yet. Well, maybe he has. He's slowed down, yep. So we're still waiting on, I think just a couple driver stacks across. Here comes Mark Royce crossing the finish. LeBlanc and Stephen Knight. I do believe that is everyone. So let's go ahead and go down through the official results here after the race here at Mid-Ohio. Looks like we're waiting on Ron Harrington still to cross the start-finish line, so just a moment here.
I'm sure Stephen Knight's not too happy with the way his race finished. He was really challenging Chad McGinley there in the second stint for 4th place. And he ends up finishing 22 seconds behind him in 7th instead. So I'm sure he's not too happy with that last stint. That second stint, it looked like he was flying, like he was going to be a 4th-ish place driver. That last stint just didn't go his way.
Austin McGill, of course, doing some celebrating here.
He's been doing celebrating for 3 laps. He finally gets to burn them down, though.
That's right. He has pretty much been celebrating the last 3 laps. I do want to, of course, after that win, I do want to go talk a little bit about Martin Sports before we actually do a big rundown through the final results here. Of course, that was the Martin Sports winning moment. Austin McGill, the entire race was pretty much his winning moment. Of course, Martin Sports, a family-owned apparel company in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. They have been in action for over a decade. Martin Sports provides some of the best custom apparel for everyone, whether you need some apparel for your local sports team, business, a special event, maybe you can have a family reunion, you want matching shirts, they can definitely handle it. I mean, they really have done just a fantastic job. I mean, the best clothing I've ever seen. I have plenty of their pieces myself. and they handle many washes. You can wash it pretty much thousands and thousands of times, and it'll never fade. And they design it themselves. They walk you through the whole process, so definitely check them out. And not only that, they actually have also sim racing gloves as well. They actually just released a new design, which I do believe they're calling the Scully gloves, which are really, really cool. And I do believe if you look at their social media, they actually have a giveaway going on at the moment. So if you check out Martin Sports on Facebook, you can find the way to enter that contest to win a set of gloves, of course. But if you want to buy some, visit martinsports906.com today to get into contact with them or buy some gloves, or possibly make your personal apparel project come to life. They'll definitely help you get there for sure. Now let's actually go down through the final results here. And of course, Austin McGill, your winner here tonight. Bobby Mantle, second place. Stephen Hayes in a well-fought third place finish. Fourth place, Chad McGinley. Fifth place, Mark Royce. Sixth, Justin LeBlanc. Seventh, Stephen Knight. Eighth, Dale Brooks. Ninth, David Holsey. And 10th, Steve Gerber.
In 11th place, we got Don Blazier. 12th place is EJ Luna. 13th, Mike Hayes, followed by 14th, Jeffrey Weimer, followed by Ron Harrington in 5th place, Daniel Ott in 16th, Ricky Hudges 2nd and 17th, Eric Bergdorf in 18th, and Jeremy Richmond, who did not start, in 19th.
Alrighty, that is of course, the rundown through our field. First off, we're going to talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen Hayes. You did an amazing job, Stephen. I mean, I think what you did today was better than winning in a lot of ways. You spun out, and you dropped all the way back to 15th, and somehow you drove back up to third. How did you do it, man? I mean, it looked like you had some really ingenious pit strategy there. But walk us through, what do you think? What was the keys to getting back up to that position?
Yeah, so that spin was unfortunate. You know, I tried to go for a pass on Chad and just messed everything up and went into Bobby. So my apologies to Bobby first off. But yeah, once I found myself back there, you know, I gained some positions on that first spin, but I just thought if I pit early, I could get out ahead, maybe keep that position. I knew I had a fast car. It's just if I could keep the position, which I kept most of the positions. And I did the same thing on the next pit stop, try to pit a little earlier. That got me up to 4th, I believe. And then it was just Mark Royce from there. But yeah, it was a battle all day, and super happy I was able to get top 3.
Yeah, you definitely earned it, man. You definitely earned it. What a recovery for yourself, for sure. What kind of preparation did you do here, or kind of to get ready for Mid Ohio?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of practice races, iRacing officials and all that, and a lot of time spent on the sim, and just trying to find the line and how deep I can push the corners, and I found it, and I was feeling good for today, and then halfway through the race I was able to push a little bit harder and find better lines, which helped me get up to 3rd. But yeah, I spent a lot of hours practicing this course because it was a tough one.
Definitely is. I mean, it's not your average road course, that's for sure. Of course, next week we're going to not your average oval as well, New Hampshire. Loudon, very difficult racetrack. How do you feel about that place?
Yeah, hate it. Hate the track. Never like it. Be happy if I get a top 15 there. But for real, it's just going to take a lot of practice trying to find the line. I don't know about my chances there. I don't feel too great there.
We hope things change for you for sure. Who can we give a shout out to after that 3rd place and really just redemption story that you put on here today?
Yeah, shout out to Austin McGill. That guy had a blazing truck. I mean, I don't know how he did it, but that was pretty amazing. Bobby Mantle in 2nd place. Good job to him. Lone Star Crew. Justin on the 6th place. I know he started pretty much dead last today. Worked his way up to 6th. So congrats to him. EJ and Michael sticking it out there. About it.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, Steven. We'll see you next week at New Hampshire, brother.
Yep. Thank you, Brian.
Alrighty, that was Stephen Hayes. Next up, we got Austin Edstrom going to be talking with Bobby Mantle. I do believe one of the stars of the show tonight. Austin, you got the floor.
Bobby, great P2 finish here today. It looked like maybe you were going to have a little bit to challenge Austin there in that second stint, especially with you coming out of the pits in front. What were you thinking after Austin made that mistake in the first stint? Did you think you were right back in this thing and that you were going to be able to challenge him like you did?
I don't know. I just tried to be consistent, kept hitting my marks. Like, I know Austin's a good driver, so I couldn't make any mistakes. So I just tried to hold him back and do my best.
Yeah, we noticed after you, or before you had passed him, right? You were just so methodical into the braking zones whenever his back end was just twitching all over the place, and you could tell he was struggling. After you got back by him, though, for the lead, it kind of seemed like that flip-flopped, like maybe you had been judging your braking zones off of him before you passed him, and then maybe it was a little tougher to pull away once you had gotten past him on those same tires. Do you think that, just passing him there, and did you lose your braking marks a little bit for the first couple laps, or was it hard to kind of adapt to leading the race instead of being behind such a fast truck?
Well, it definitely helped with him being in front of me. I was able to follow his braking points, follow his pace, and then, yeah, once I got ahead of him, I was just on my own, and I made a few little minor mistakes. It's a tough track. It's real easy to slip up around here, and yeah, I missed a few of the braking zones a little bit, a few little errors, and that's all it takes here. But he's a fast truck, man.
Yeah, it's incredibly treacherous going around this place with grass on both sides, and if you just put, you're looking for the limit, and if you just barely go over it, put a tire just a little bit off the grass, you're going for a spin. But to my knowledge, it didn't really look like you did that at all. Maybe you got the grass on the exit of turn 2 a time or two, but you didn't really make any major mistakes. And I mean, you kept that thing absolutely clean, even with the I believe there was like a little issue going into the last couple corners with Austin where he got a little deep on the brakes, and we couldn't tell if you were trying to go defensive or not. Can you walk us through that incident if you remember it?
I don't remember it too well, but I was just trying to do the best I could, man. I don't really know what to tell you.
Yeah, there wasn't much to it. It's just we saw him absolutely torch the tires on that one, and he did a hell of a job.
Which is very easy to do here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But we just saw you dogging him there for a while, and that last stint started falling off a little bit. Can you tell us what you were feeling in that last stint?
I think I was just trying to push the truck too hard, try and catch up to him, bridge that gap a little bit, and really just hoping he was going to make a mistake and I could capitalize on it. But I think I pushed myself a little too hard, wore the tires out, and I didn't have any more pace in me.
It's understandable. Do you have any shout-outs you want to give at the end of this interview here?
Yeah, shout out to my family and friends that tune in and watch me race. Shout out to the guys here at the Top Motorsports. They've been a great team this year. Shout out to the guys in the league. Love these guys. It's very competitive every Sunday. You guys do a great job with the broadcast. I'm actually looking forward to going back and watching it now.
Well, I appreciate that shout out. Thank you, man. But yeah, we had a ton of fun watching y'all, and whenever y'all were battling for the lead there at the middle of the race, it was honestly a ton of fun just trying to figure out who was going to make the mistake, who was going to make a good move. So thank you for putting on a show for us today. And unfortunately, it didn't go your way for P1 today, but Austin was.
Hey,
just
I'm happy
really
with P2.
Absolutely, man. Great points day. I think it's your second top 5 on the season, so absolutely great for the points.
Alrighty, that was Bobby Mantle, our second place finisher. Definitely best finish I think he's had all season long. Next up, we're going to talk to Mr. Show Off, Austin McGill. Those last 3 laps, man, you were celebrating a little bit too early, weren't you? Or did you know we were watching?
I'm not going to wrap myself out, but yes, I may have been watching. Like I do every week, even while racing at the same time. But yeah, I was celebrating a little early.
Yeah, we saw that for sure. We were talking. We were saying he's going to make a mistake and he's going to lose this race. But I'll tell you what, you did have quite a battle on your hands. I mean, Bobby kept you honest, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I definitely made it a lot tougher on myself than I was expecting. But I made a silly mistake at the beginning. I completely blew the corner, so that was on me. But did get a really good battle out of it.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely looked like a lot of fun. I mean, for to see you guys kind of, it gave us a lot of entertainment as well. We know you were already coming into this. You were kind of the favorite as it is. I mean, because I remember I think it was Coda earlier in the season. You went there and you dominated at that race. So were you confident coming in here that was going to be kind of the same story?
Yeah, definitely. I like to say I'm a big road course guy. I've always enjoyed racing on road courses and in the trucks, next gens, Xfinity cars, something a little more challenging. And after COTA, I kind of, was looking forward to this race at Mid Ohio, and a few weeks from now, I think we go to Watkins Glen, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely have that one. I'm sure you have that one, kind of circled on the calendar. Tough wise though, like speaking of, because Watkins Glen, Circuit of the Americas, where does this rank, like difficulty wise, Mid Ohio?
For me personally, it's definitely the hardest. I know COTA's the longest. Could be the toughest for some people, but there's a lot of straights in COTA. There's a lot of parts where you can kind of relax on the steering wheel, but you can't really do that around here. Every 5-10 seconds, there's another corner coming at you, so you always got to be ready.
100%. That's definitely so. This is definitely a tough track. A lot of elevation changes, not a lot of time to relax. That's for sure. Of course, next week we're going to New Hampshire, one of the tougher oval tracks. What do you feel about that?
To be honest, I'm not really looking forward to it, but I'm gonna get as much practice in as I can, so I can give myself a good shot at running up front.
Well, we definitely can't wait to see what you can do there, Austin. Great job on the victory here. Started on the outside pole, took the lead on the first lap. Who can we give a shout out to after this big victory?
Shout out to Amsoil for being a sponsor on my truck every week. 5 Aces Racing, and letting me run with them this season. And shout out to you guys for putting on a great show every week, and I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you for putting on a great show for us to make it easy on us, Austin. We'll see you next week, brother.
See you guys.
All righty. That was Austin McGill, our winner here tonight. Definitely a great job to him for sure. I mean, he put on quite a show. I mean, definitely him and Bobby Mantle and Stephen Hayes. I mean, there was a lot of guys that really kept in this race. I mean, Chad McGinley did a great job. Mark Royce, I mean, hated it for Don Tanya Watt. I'll tell you, that was the heartbreaker of the night for sure. But I'll say it was a pretty good race. A good 67 laps here at Mid Ohio. I usually a little apprehensive about these races. I'm like, man, I don't really want to call that. But man, I'll tell you what, they always definitely do us well. They always kind of surprise me. I do believe we're going to take one last commercial break, and we'll come right back. I'm sorry, my producer's talking to my ear. Couldn't understand me. He actually said the schedule. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the schedule. Definitely love this new thing. We've got to give a big shout out to Austin Derbyshire for putting all this together. Of course, as we mentioned before, Mondays, which is tomorrow, are available for any league that is looking for your race to be covered. We'll give you the same treatment we'll give Global Racing League here, of course. Tuesday, Champion Power Equipment is going to be back in action at Charlotte Motor Speedway at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're going to be running. Of course, Thunderclap, that is pretty much our premier series. They have a lot of cool guys. Ryan Truex, Tyler Truex, all kinds of pit crew guys and everything, real-life NASCAR people that are involved in that series. That one runs about 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're going to be at the Milwaukee Mile. We are open for business on Thursday if any leagues is looking for any coverage. Of course, we just recently started the NIS series, Top Split NIS. That runs around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. They're going to be at New Hampshire. And, of course, Saturdays are open if you'd like to have something called there as well. Of course, Sunday we're going to be going to New Hampshire, as we mentioned, at about 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here with the Global Racing Truck Series. But we definitely can't wait to see what the rest of the week is going to hold, or if possible, get some new blood when it comes to leagues. But, Austin, any final thoughts here for the race here at Mid-Ohio?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. We had a great battle for the lead until about, lap 45, 50-ish. The front two really kept this race going from the forefront, with that mistake we had from Austin. We had a great race for the lead there until he was finally able to pull away. But I think unequivocally we got to give driver of the day to Stephen Hayes. I mean, what an effort from him. If you take out his first 5 laps, he was, just on a rail coming back through the field. So congratulations to our top 3, including him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely. Well, a good way to wrap it up, that's for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate y'all tuning in to the Global Racing Truck Series here. My name is Brian Britt. Of course, I've Big thank you to Austin Edstrom. Loved calling the race with you. First time calling it with you, and I think it was awesome. Of course, also big shout out to the guy behind the cameras, Austin Darbyshire. So really a group of awesomes. I feel like I'm a little bit outnumbered here. For sure. But definitely we appreciate everybody out there tuning in as well. We'll see you, of course, in a couple days for the Champion Power Equipment Truck Series at about, as I mentioned, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next time.